at the end of time.
O'clock.
Hey everybody, what's going on? It's Wednesday once again.
Yep.
And here we are.
And we're doing a serial killer show.
I know. Is it weird that I'm excited about it?
Y'all love it when we do serial killer shows. We like to do serial killer shows.
I mean, I like all the topics we do are interesting,
Yeah.
but I feel like the last couple weeks we haven't really. Well, I mean, we did horrible shit last week. We did the female Nazi guards, and then I think we did Genghis Khan the week before that. But I've been just itching to get back to some serial killer shit.
Yeah.
And this is actually a serial killer. I guess technically a serial killer. They don't know how many people he killed though, which we'll get into. But a couple of y'all have recommended this, so I'm glad that it finally got around to. We finally got around to doing it. That it won in the poll.
The Alligator Man.
Yeah, CB said, "Why is he called the Alligator Man?" I love this.
You'll find out.
Precious said he had a small pond out back of his tavern in which he'd throw small animals, waitresses, etc.
Yeah. Yeah.
Allegedly. Yeah. I mean, there was a reason. And like I said, now this is going back to the 1930s. This is Texas. And if you have ever seen the Tobe Hooper movie, Eaten Alive, it was loosely based on this guy. Because he's apparently... Well, the thing about it was that Joe Ball, a.k.a. the Alligator Man, a.k.a. the Butcher of Elmendorf, a.k.a. the Bluebeard of South Texas, was almost I don't want to say he was a mythical figure or a legend. They knew he was a real guy, but his legend kind of grew and grew over the years. But it so happened that the managing editor of the, I think it was the Austin Chronicle or a Texas newspaper, in 2002 went back and did a deep dive and went all back in the files and everything like that, and actually published this big long article about it, which I read, where he dispelled some of the rumors and stuff. But he absolutely did kill at least 2 people. They think it might be more 12 to 14, but they're not entirely sure. We got a super chat already from Papa77. Thanks, you very
Bob.
much. Just for doing my favorite kind of show.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is kind of my favorite kind of show too. And this is a good story. This is a good story. Yeah, so for a long time I kind of feel like this was almost a scary urban legend thing, you'd tell your kids, you be good, or the Alligator Man's gonna get you kind of thing. But he was a real dude. There was records of what he did, like I said, that were uncovered in 2002. So the story has mainly been told. Like I said, I guess he's technically a serial killer. They do know that he killed at least 2 people. And they suspect he might have killed others because a suspicious number of people, mostly women, I think one teenage boy also, went missing around him, which, that's always very suspicious. But they never found them. But there might be a reason for that, as we'll get into shortly.
Might have fed him to the alligators.
That's what everyone's thinking. That's when Zach just said, I just read up on this dude, and apparently he inspired a Tobe Hooper movie. Yeah, it was Eaten Alive. That's what is it? Well, because Tobe Hooper is from Texas, and obviously Texas Chainsaw Massacre was loosely based on Ed Gein, and also a little bit on Dean Corll, too. A fact I learned today about Tobe Hooper, which I did not know, because I was reading another article about this, and they were talking about Tobe Hooper and talking about Eaten Alive in reference to Joe Ball. And they mentioned the fact that Tobe Hooper was a student at, I guess it was University of Texas, Austin, when Charles Whitman shot the place up, which I did not know. So now I do. But yeah, I never knew that fact. I don't remember if I've actually seen Eaten Alive. There was another movie called Eaten Alive that was not, but this is the Tobe Hooper one that came out. I think it came out after the Texas Chainsaw Massacre,
I've never seen it.
the year after.
I've never seen it.
I don't think I've seen it.
Might
I mean,
be
I
good.
might have, but I don't remember it. It sounds familiar, but I'm not really sure. I've seen so many fucking movies over the years.
Remember Motel Hell?
Yeah, that's yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, have we reviewed that?
I don't think so. We should.
I kept saying a long time ago, I was like, man, we should do Motel Hell. That one's so fun.
Yeah.
But I don't think we ever got around to. I'll
Scared the
check.
shit out of me as a kid.
I'll
That
check.
movie scared the shit out of me.
Making the fritters out of the people.
Yeah, the bags, they're the bags over the
That
heads.
was pretty freaky, actually.
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of like... I feel like it's more of a comedy. It's kind of a horror comedy.
Nothing
But
funny about it when you were a kid.
it's still, yeah. It's still like a fucking...
Yeah, and they'd removed all their larynxes so they couldn't yell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
They had the music gut playing. Or I think, or was the music to drown out their screams? No, it was they couldn't scream, could they?
I don't
And
remember.
they had
God,
some
it's been
loud,
so
they had
long
some
since I've-
loudspeakers.
We should
on.
definitely... I'm going
Yeah.
to write that down. We should do Motel Hell for next Monday.
Yeah.
Instead of... I feel like we were probably, like... edging toward doing another Burt Reynolds movie like Stroke
See
Race.
Motel Hell.
But let's do Motel Hell instead.
Yeah, I don't think we did it.
Because I'll check. I don't think
Yeah.
we did. I wanted to do it, but I don't think we ever got around to it.
Yeah,
And maybe we should do Eaten Alive too.
I would write that down because see, you were talking about Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and then I started thinking about fucking Motel Hell,
Yeah.
and then I was also thinking about the one with the fucking psychic dude, fucking what was like Tourist Trap. It was
Tourist
all
Trap,
ar-
yeah. Now
all
we've
around-
definitely reviewed that one.
Yeah, all around the same time, and those are some creepy fucking flicks.
Although
man.
Tourist Trap, I feel like that was later. I think that was 78 or 79. Whereas Eaten Alive, I think was 76.
I had seen them all around the same time.
Maybe that's
what I'm
yeah.
talking about.
I think Eaten Alive came out in 76.
You know, it
maybe
was like
75.
12, 13, 14, around that period.
Yeah.
I was seeing all these, some of them were old. They were fucking scared the shit out of me.
Yeah.
Friday the 13th and all that.
Yeah, CB said he probably was a serial killer. The evidence got eaten. That's kind of the... They just couldn't prove it, is all. And, and he died before they could do anything, which we'll get to. So, they never, they looked for evidence, but they found 2 bodies, but not where you think that you would find them.
Now, if an alligator eats a whole body, the alligator usually waits for it to rot and then eats
Yeah,
it.
they drag it to the bottom.
But let's say it swallows a skull. It doesn't digest that, does it?
That's what I mean. It's like, well, yeah, they can't digest a skull.
Yeah.
Wouldn't they poop
and
it
I
out?
don't even think they could shit a skull out.
Yeah, wouldn't they just
might
get,
be able to
get
crush it.
constipated?
Yeah, they might be able to crush it.
I mean, I guess they'd have to scrunch
But they would shit
crunch
out
it
a
up.
bunch of bone fragments that you'd think that they would find. Teeth and
think.
stuff. But maybe I'm wrong.
Well, and
Maybe they can break down bones. I don't know.
you have to think, too, that these crimes occurred in, like, the 30s
Yeah.
and 40s, and it's like,
Okay.
so,
Not real good
obviously
forensics.
not
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, they'd have been like, I ain't going down in there and looking for bones. You crazy?
I mean, I think they did, but I don't
I'm
really
a cop.
know.
I'm not going down in there.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
fuck that. But yeah, so I'm not actually sure. Like, when could they determine? Because I think we were talking about this when we were kind of just tangentially talking about Jack the Ripper the other day, and we were talking about that kidney that he sent.
Yeah.
And it's like, did they really have the means in 1888, or conversely, do they have the means in the 1930s to determine whether meat was from a human or from an animal?
No.
Like, I didn't think... Like, I know in 1888 they probably could.
No.
But in the 30s, I was like, wait, could they?
No.
Probably not.
Well, maybe they could do something like a blood test analysis to see what,
Yeah, I
what
guess they could do
haplogroup
that.
it was, and then they would go like, that's not human blood. Maybe. But somebody else have to look into that. You have to ask AI that shit. I don't think they could in the 30s.
That's kind of what I was wondering about. Because, like, when I was reading all this stuff about this case, and they said, well, they never found any evidence, blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, yeah, but...
Because they would bring
Did
people...
they have the means to, though?
Yeah, because they'd bring people in. I remember cases they'd bring people in, and they would ask them, "Is that a human bone?" And there would be some confusion of whether or not something was a human bone or not.
And you'd think, like, a bone,
Yeah.
that's kind of more
Yeah.
easy to discern.
Yeah,
But if it's just, like, chunks of meat,
right.
I don't really see how you could determine, like, without...
I remember
more
being
modern analysis.
I remember them being confused about bones too, like finger bones and little bones. Like that might be an animal bone or that kind of shit, or it might be human. And then you have to call in an expert
Yeah.
to say no.
Yeah,
that
because
bone
there are
is a-"
still some bones
Yeah.
that, I mean, we're similar enough to other animals that,
Yeah.
a couple of the bones, like if you see a femur or something like that, I mean,
Yeah.
that's pretty obviously a person, but it's like, or the skull, obviously. But,
Well, that rib cage, it's undeniable.
yeah, but it was like some of the
Yeah.
smaller bones, like, yeah, you wouldn't necessarily know
Right.
it was human.
It was little bones.
Yeah, so, you know what I mean. CB said, yeah, the only evidence on Ted Bundy was his teeth marks on the girl's butt cheek. Yeah. And Papa said, and now the bite mark evidence doesn't stand up in court. Yeah, it's like, it's one of those things where if that's the only evidence you got, then it's probably not that great. But if you have it in conjunction with like
his
a
bite
bunch
mark,
of other
they
stuff,
did a dental impression of him, and they
they
took
did.
that impression and put it along
They
that
did.
life-size photograph. That was his teeth.
But they had a bunch of other shit on him too. It wasn't just that.
They were witness testimony and stuff. He confessed to a lot of shit too.
He did, yeah. CB said they could not determine human DNA from animal. I guess he meant in 1880. Well, I know they couldn't in 1888, obviously.
I don't even think they knew about DNA.
They didn't even know what DNA was in 1888. They had only just figured out fingerprinting. And actually, the Jack the Ripper case, I don't even think they had figured out fingerprinting yet. But I was wondering if in the 1930s they could tell chunks of meat if it was a human or animal. You know,
I don't think they could.
I don't think
in
so
the
either.
1800s. That's why I was saying that from hell letter from the Ripper with the kidney in it. That could have been a sheep's.
That could have been fake.
A sheep's kidney. And it
that's what I mean. It's like, how could they
would have known
determine
back then
that it was a human kidney like versus an animal kidney? Because you could buy kidneys at butcher shops.
Because I even think a doctor of the day would have gone in there and go, yeah, that could be a human kidney. That's probably what they would do. It's kind of small.
Yeah.
You know, they all kind of look alike. They're like that, you know. That's what they would have said.
I don't know, man. All those organs, they pretty much all look the same.
Like,
what are you asking me for?
If that's from that woman, she might have been pretty small, had a little kidney.
Yeah.
You know, it's
like
they weren't real scientific.
I just became a doctor like through correspondence school.
Yeah.
I didn't even like cut up any corpses or anything.
Well, even surgeons back then didn't really have a whole lot of experience.
No.
You know, their surgery that they were doing was real rudimentary in the 1800s.
Yeah, and they were just as likely to kill you as heal you because they didn't really know about washing their hands and
they had
putting their dirty ass mitts
the
into your
experience.
fucking
They had equivalent
guts.
experience and knowledge almost of as a butcher. The butcher could do all those. Barbers were doing it before the fucking surgeons were. Ain't that some shit?
It's like, here, bite on this leather strap. I'm gonna cut open your stomach.
Yeah, kind of something. I'll get that out of there. I'm gonna fucking lock that.
Have a belt of whiskey. You'll be fine.
Yeah, we gotta lock that leg off. Here, fucking drink some whiskey. We're gonna take that leg off. Hold him down.
Yeah, pretty bad.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
That's how they did it.
We're laughing, but that's what they did, you know.
Yeah, and they were barbers.
I mean, you know, he might live, probably not.
Yeah.
But, you know.
Yeah, what made you good was how fast you could work.
Yeah.
Not, you know, because the longer it took, the more trauma the fucking dude went through. The chances are he'd kill him. So you just had to work fast.
I cannot imagine the fucking agony. I guess after a while, your brain would just shut down.
I've seen drawings.
Nope.
I've seen drawings of the fucking patient and then the fucking barber and a whole bunch of guys, and one dude's got a fucking leather glove getting ready to belt the dude in the fucking face to knock him out.
Yeah.
So they could cut a leg off.
That's right.
So that's how they applied anesthesia. Pow! Right to the sweet spot. You went out, cut it, work before he comes back. Yeah.
Well, to be honest, if I had to do anesthesia, and it's like it's really expensive in the U.S., so it's like, just punch me in the face. It's free.
Yeah. Knock you out.
You know?
Which only lasts a few seconds. But, you know.
Yeah, Mango just said, this case sounds like it influenced Toby Hooper's Eaten Alive, a.k.a. Death Trap. Yes, it did. Mm-hmm. Toby Hooper, like I said earlier, did use true crime cases, obviously, for inspiration for his movies. You know, like Ed Gein for Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Ed Gein / Dean Coral. And he definitely used Joe Ball for this one because in Texas, as I said, Joe Ball was kind of almost a mythical figure. Like, everybody knew the stories, even though over the years I think some things became not that exaggerated though. Like when they found out the real shit, it's not really that exaggerated from the stories. But I think after a while people started thinking that like he wasn't even real, like he was just like this boogeyman or something. But like I said, in 2002, like this guy at the managing editor of the Austin Chronicle newspaper, like did all this research and like went back in the original files and everything like that and he actually found Joe Ball's nephew, Bucky. There is an interview with him on YouTube. The weird thing about it is that I watched the interview and I was just like listening to it like over like on my other computer while I was doing something else, and it just like it was only really about like 10 or 15 minutes, maybe not even that much, but then it just kept repeating pieces like over and over. I'm like, who the fuck edited this? Like, so it's like, I don't know. So I don't know if they were just trying to make it longer or it was just really weird. But the nephew, he doesn't seem to think that his uncle was a serial killer. I think he believes that he killed those two people. Because, I mean, everybody's pretty sure he killed at least those two people. Those two women. But he's like, what happened, he was in, and we're talking about the nephew now, Bucky. He was in the military, and he's like, you know, the Ball family name, because the Ball family in that part of Texas were actually quite prominent. They were very wealthy. They owned a lot of stuff. And so they were, you know, really well known. And so when he was in the military, he said this guy he was bunked with or like whatever, that guy's mom sent him like an old true crime magazine that had like a story about Joe Ball in there. And he's like, hey, is this any kin to you? Ha ha ha. And he's like, yeah, that was my uncle. And he's like, and most of that shit in there is wrong because they exaggerated it for the true crime magazines. Because you know those big true crime magazines like in the 40s and stuff? Like they loved writing about this dude. But like I said, a lot of it was exaggerated. A little bit, but not much.
Kind of like the little detective books that they had when I was a kid.
Yeah. That BTK loved so much.
BTK loved them. So, I think like the photography, I looked in there and it was basically BDSM photography.
Yeah, that's what it is. That's like the only place you could get it.
Right.
Because they were kind of skirting the... It's like, it's crime.
You're right, yeah.
It really happened. He's tying her up. It's like, they're not getting off on it. Shut up.
You know
what I mean?
What the fuck is that?
Yeah, it was a way of like skirting around kind of censorship laws, I'm thinking. Because you could show that kind of stuff like in the context of a crime. You just couldn't show it.
There wasn't any nudity. It was just women being tied up and threatened with knives. And
you just couldn't show it as like,
you
know, as being like porn or being like arousing in any way. Although obviously that's what it was for, you know.
Well, yeah. Big ass titties all with fucking ropes lashed in between them and shit on a chair, and some dude pervert with a knife, and she going yeah. It looked like the cover of a porn movie. A pornographic horror movie.
It did, CB said, Tom and Jenny, if you were serial killers, what trophies would you take?
Oh, come on. I can't even think that way.
Spleens.
Heads. Whole heads.
You just gonna make a fence post with them?
Yeah, heads.
You just take the whole body and do like a Vlad the Impaler, man. You could have like a whole like Vlad the Impaler.
Make a whole fucking belt with them heads hanging, like a skirt.
Like Kali.
Like a skirt, yeah, like Kali with heads and shit.
That would be funny.
Me with an assault rifle, a belt full of fucking heads and nets.
You could
heads
layer the head. That would
hair.
be super heavy, man.
Yeah,
that'd be like carrying around a bunch of bowling balls.
They'd be dried.
Yeah,
like shrunken heads, kind of. But
we could make shrunken heads.
They'd be. Well, there's no skull in that though. I want a skull, big skulls.
You gotta take the skull out.
Skulls, yeah. With the faces.
That's how they make shrunken.
Like, you know, fucking preserved faces so you can see who it was.
So you're like, yeah,
got that bitch.
I got you motherfucker.
Got that motherfucker right here. It pissed me off.
Tom walking around with these heads.
Belt of fuking heads and shit. And big ass fucking rifle.
I know that's horrific.
No shirt.
It's still pretty.
Yeah, like some out of Conan.
Tom said, CB said Tom would take the booties. Yeah, he just
that too.
He'll just take everyone's ass cheeks. You could take ass cheeks and like make them into like a chest plate.
I'd have a throne of fucking heads, and all the pictures in the whole house would be frames with booties hanging on, like mounted booties.
Mounted booties.
Yeah.
With the name. Both booties or just
with the name?
Okay.
Underneath it in a little plaque.
And titties too.
Just booties.
Just booties. You could put titties and booties down underneath. That would be.
Because the dude is the booties, man. You're trying to humiliate him. I got your ass. It's on the wall.
On the wall.
Yeah, got your ass.
Now every time you try to sit down, you'll think of me.
Stop all this crazy shit, man. Let's get to the fucking. Let's get to the show.
I know we would never do such a thing. I'm just like, it's just kind of funny though.
I would only do that on a battlefield. In an apocalyptic fucking Conan the Barbarian type fucking thing with rifles and fucking on a lot of trend. I'd be on a lot of trend.
Yeah.
I'd have a fucking werewolf mask.
I could see you doing that.
Yeah.
Tom's just waiting for the zombie apocalypse so he can just go ham on the whole fucking world.
Rifles and pistols and fucking skirt of heads and fucking stylized fucking wolf head like a werewolf. I'd be on a lot of trend.
You could wear someone else's head on your head.
Yeah.
So you just have like another head stacked up like a hat.
I'd have a G-string on with a dick covering, and the dick covering would be a 27-inch dick swinging. It'd have a head on the end of it with a face. Somebody's head.
Just dragging the ground.
Give me head.
Like, there you go.
This should be swinging.
Yeah.
Yeah. Loincloth in the back.
There you go.
Yeah.
We need to make a movie about this.
Yeah.
Heidi just said Tom's booty shrine.
Yeah, it's a booty shrine. I have all that crazy shit. I'd be sitting on my throne like that. It'd look like some kind of fucking perverse fucking Conan fucking from Frank Frazetta painting, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that painting that we have that.
Yeah. And I'd have a big long wig on.
That Sophie gave us.
Yeah, like so yeah.
With him standing up on this pile of like little arms and bodies and
yeah.
skulls.
Be like a
and
Conan villain.
Yeah, you definitely would. All right, so let's go back a little bit and talk a little bit about... They don't know a huge amount about Joe Ball as a kid, but as I said, they do know that his family, the Ball family, were very, very prominent in this part of Texas. Matter of fact, his dad, Frank, moved to this little town, Elmendorf, Texas, which in these days, from what I've heard, I've never been there, only has about 650 people in it. And most of the roads are not paved. Like, it's all just kind of gravel and stuff. And it's like, you know, they got a bar and a hair salon, and that's about it. You know what I mean? So it's like a pretty dinky-ass town. But back in the day, when Joe Ball's dad, Frank, moved there in 1885, the town had just been founded. It's only a few miles south of San Antonio, which is a big city. Now, the guy that founded Elmendorf would later become the mayor of San Antonio, like back in the day. Now, Frank, the dad, he borrowed some money, and he opened up a factory, like a cotton processing factory. And then the town got the railroad through it. So, obviously, he made a fuck ton of money. And they became pretty much the wealthiest family in this part of Texas. They were the first family to have... Like, they had built the first stone house or the first brick house or whatever, like, in that area. And he also, like, bought up a bunch of real estate and all this other stuff and opened a general store also. So him and his wife actually had 8 kids. Now, Joe was their second kid. Now, all of their other kids, other than Joe, were also very, very successful. Like, one later became, like, the postmaster general. You know, they were teachers. They were like very prominent like figures. You know what I mean? They were all like really successful. Like they owned grocery stores, stuff like that. Joe, not so much. I don't think they said anything about him being a delinquent really as a kid, but he was for sure a loner. He was born in 1896, and he was just real isolated. You know, didn't have a lot of friends. He just kind of liked to wander around out in the wilderness, like by himself, you know, hunting, fishing, that kind of stuff, which is not that weird, especially for that time period, but I guess it's just like weird in retrospect, like considering what happened.
He's just a country boy. There's a lot of people like
That's
that.
what I mean.
Especially
It's not that strange. Yeah. And also when he became a teenager, he got super, super, super into guns. And they said that he was a crack shot, that he was like really good, that he could like shoot through the like the neck of a bottle, like all this other kind of like he could do all, like hit all this shit like from the bumper of his car, like while it was moving and all this other kind of stuff. This stuff. They said he was a really, really good shot.
Yeah, there's a lot of that happens in the South.
Yeah.
I was one of them. You just grew up shooting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I was like 7 and when I got my first fucking rifle. It's a Remington Nylon 66, little 22. It looked like a BB gun. You would think it was a BB gun. It was a 22 long rifle. It was my dad's, but he gave it to me. That's what I learned to shoot on. I love that rifle. It's gone now, though. Long gone.
Yeah, I don't know what kind of guns this guy had,
Yeah.
but apparently he had a bunch. Like I said, starting from when he was a teenager, and he like used to practice all the time. And like I said, he was like a really, really good shot. Like according to everybody in his family and like everybody they interviewed later that knew him, like even his nephew and stuff. So obviously, 1917 rolls around, and you know the start of World War I. So Joe Ball enlisted, and he did see some action in Europe. He was in for 2 years. They don't really have I guess he didn't do anything that exciting over there, but he did actually get an honorable discharge from the army in 1919 and came back home to Elmendorf. Now, when he came back home, most of his family and friends and stuff like that said he was kind of different after he came back from the war, which I guess is not surprising. It was World War I, you know what I mean? I don't... None of them really said anything specifically, but they said he just wasn't the same. What his nephew said was that, like back then, they didn't really have, like, therapy or anything like that like they have now, so it's like a lot of the people that came back from World War I were kind of messed up, and it's like nobody really did anything about it because there weren't really any resources. So I think that's kind of what he was getting at. So he goes and works for his dad at the cotton processing factory for a little while. But he didn't really like it, I guess. So he quit. And like I said, it just seems like he wasn't adapting back to life in the civilian world too well after coming back from World War I, right? Even though he was there for 2 years, but like I said, that's kind of a long time. And he did see action, you know what I mean? It wasn't like he was just farting around. So what happened then, shortly after, was good old Prohibition. So Joe decides he's going to make some money by bootlegging. Because, like a lot of people did back then, there was a lot of money in it, obviously, because you weren't allowed to have alcohol, and people still wanted alcohol. So you could make a lot of money by providing them with said alcohol, and that's what he was going to do.
You could become a hero by providing people with alcohol.
Yeah. So, according to witnesses or people that were still alive that remembered him, they said that he had this Model A Ford, and he would drive all around like the town and like the neighboring towns. And they said he had this big 50-gallon barrel of whiskey, and he would sell it to people from his car, like a little fucking like an ice cream truck.
A lot of people
think for whiskey.
A lot of people think it's still illegal to bootleg alcohol, make alcohol at home. It is not. All right? That's been cleared up. You can make vodka, you can make whiskey, you can make whatever you want at home. You just can't sell it.
Yeah.
That's but for your own use, you can make moonshine.
Yeah, you can make whatever you want.
And you can give it away, but you can't sell it.
Yeah.
That's what the law says.
Yeah. So yeah, I do kind of feel like, because people brew their own beer and
make their own wine,
and stuff like that. Yeah, it's kind of.
I actually thought about getting a still.
Yeah.
To make vodka, because we drink a lot of vodka.
True, would be cheaper probably.
Yeah, probably cheaper to make it. But I have to see.
Yeah.
Maybe it isn't. It might be cheaper to buy it.
Yeah, like I said,
they're making it in mass.
Yeah.
You can get a whole fucking fifth for $20. I don't know if I could make it that cheap.
I mean, I don't even know what like the startup cost would be.
Got to get it still, and you need.
In the long run, it might just be cheaper to buy
bunch of sugar,
because, like you said, they have like
stuff that you need, like potato peels and all kinds.
They
of
have
stuff
scale, so they
use,
can not charge. Yeah, because I mean, we get decent vodka for $25.
Yeah,
and that lasts like a
month.
week. Well, not quite.
For us, about
more like a week and a half.
Yeah, maybe a week and a half, maybe 2 months. Yeah, maybe 3 months, 3 weeks, maybe.
So, because we probably need to get another one before Friday.
Yeah, we probably drink 2/5 a month.
That sounds about right. Maybe 3/5. I'm not sure.
No, it's not that much.
You don't think?
2.
I'm gonna have to check. I'm gonna have to check. I don't really remember how often we get on there and get a new one. But yeah, because usually we don't drink other than on the show.
Yeah.
Like we drink when we go out, but like within the house. Like I don't just like chill out every night.
No, this is our drinking time.
This is our drinking time, like on the show. I don't usually drink otherwise, unless there's something like I don't know. Unless I'm like, man, I've had a shit day and I just have one, you know what I mean, or something like that. But I hardly ever do that. We just drink on the show because it's more fun that way. So he became a bootlegger and apparently made quite a bit of money doing that. And at some point, he hired like this handyman, like to be his, like assistant or whatever. And this was a young black man. This was the mid-1920s that he hired him, and his name was Clifton Wheeler. The weird thing about it is that some sources a couple of sources that I read about this dude said that the handyman was named William Sneed. I don't know where that name comes from. That is wrong. That wasn't the guy's name. It was Clifton Wheeler. So yeah, and he's in the records because he plays a part in the shit that happens later on. Now, so Wheeler ends up doing most of the grunt work, obviously, and he later said that he'd always been afraid of Joe Ball. Because sometimes when Joe Ball would get mad at him, he would, like, shoot at his feet and, like, make him dance. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, you know, not great. Not the most stable employer, I'm feeling. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
Sound like an asshole?
Yeah, he does kind of sound like an asshole. You know what I mean? There's literally only one picture of Joe Ball that I could find. And he's wearing... I guess it looks like a wife beater, but I'm guessing in the context of the time, I guess it was probably like a swimsuit.
Yeah.
Like a swimming costume. And he's holding...
Swimming trunks, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's like a... Yeah. And he's holding, I think it's a bottle of whiskey. And I was like, well, that tracks. It'd have been cooler if he was like standing like on an alligator or something, but he's not. Right. He's just like, he's at the beach or something, I think. This is a picture that I used for the teaser and for the thing. Because like I said, that's like the only known picture of him. As far as I know. So he was doing really good bootlegging, but then, obviously, Prohibition ended, and so he's like, well, shit, there goes my bootlegging business down the toilet, right? Because now everybody's going to go get the good shit, and not the shit that I brewed up in my bathtub or whatever. Now, he figures, well, he already learned a lot about, you know, liquor and stuff, so I'm going to open a saloon. You know, that's pretty thing to do, okay. So he buys a little bit of land outside Elmendorf. And he had a little tavern built. There are pictures of that. It looks like a dump. It's like a shack, pretty much. And it was called the Sociable Inn. That sounds nice, doesn't it? The Sociable Inn. And I guess it was kind of an inn because I guess you could stay in it because it did have like 2 little rooms in the back, like little bedrooms. And then it had a bar, had a player piano, and also, occasionally, he would host cockfights. So there's that. So everybody would come and see that. At the time, like I said, it does seem like most people thought Joe was an okay guy, like the guy that owned the tavern, but also that he was kind of mean, and that you didn't want to get on his bad side, which... was true, as we'll see shortly. You know what I mean? Now, so the business is doing okay. But he decides that, well, you know, there's a lot of these little roadhouse bar type establishments. He needs some zhuzh. He needs something that's going to, like, draw in more people, right? A gimmick. Something. So he decides, for some reason, that the gimmick he wants to implement is live alligators. Because why not? It's Texas. There's alligators everywhere. So he goes. I don't know if he caught him himself. Like
It'd be easy to get.
I mean, like I said, it's like Florida. You can like here. It's like, oh, you want to find an alligator? It'd probably be pretty easy to find.
They had
one.
plenty of fishermen back in those days that could get their hands on alligators. You just buy them from fishermen. They're living in ponds and everything, and you don't get big ones. You get small ones that are easy to handle.
Yeah, he got 5. He got 5 of them.
Yeah.
4 of them were smaller. I saw a picture. I'm assuming that the picture they showed, because it looked like it was from that era, and it was, in the article about it, were his alligators, because they, confiscated them afterward. And 4 of them were, they're still big enough to bite your arm off, but 4 of them were on the smaller end, where one of them was pretty big.
You probably got them small, and they grow pretty fast.
Well, I don't know, like, because all the shit that I said, well, a couple of years.
Okay.
But I think that one was big when he got it, and then the other 4 were smaller. But he got 5 of them.
If you put the word out, man, fishermen can get their hands on them.
Yeah, because some of the sources said, well, he went and caught him himself, but I was like, that might be a later exaggeration. Although, for all I know, he might have gone and caught him himself. Not all at the same time, obviously. That would be kind of hard. But, he might have done that.
My dad has that kind of background, fishing and hunting and down in Mississippi. And you come across gators and fucking snapping turtles and crazy ass animals, squirrels, raccoons. His friends all had squirrel and raccoon pets, bobcats as pets. You find stuff. Found an eagle one time, had a broken wing. They nursed that back to health and let it go. Didn't even tell anybody they had it. Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't tell anybody I had it.
Yeah, it's kind of fucking. It's a federal thing, you know what I mean? And they were like, it'll be all right, We're just going to let it heal up. Which it did. It healed up and then it flew out of there.
And then they let it go. Yeah.
They let it go, yeah.
I mean, there are actually...
They were feeding it.
There are actually people around that do that.
Yeah.
Like, that you can take...
And it wasn't in a cage. It was in the house. They just kept it locked in a room. That's it with birds shitting all over the place. But they'd taken a lot of stuff out of that room.
Yeah.
It was in there for a good 6 months till it got healed up. And then they let it go.
Did it tear everything up?
It tore all kinds of shit. They had chairs where they were sitting on the back of the chairs. It was a bald eagle.
Well, yeah, they're quite large.
Big. Yeah.
If you've ever seen one up
and
close.
Mean. And mean.
Yeah, they're
I'd open the door and look at it and it'd look
cranky.
at me. Like that, yeah. Oh, shit. I shut the door. I was about 12.
Like I said, I didn't realize because, you mostly just see them flying around. But it's just kind of like, I went one time, I don't remember where it was. It was like it was a zoo or something like that. And you could get a picture taken with the eagle. And when you walk, I was like, holy fucking shit, that thing is huge. They're huge.
Like a dinosaur.
Yeah. I didn't realize they were that big. Because I usually just see them from far away.
When I was working at the bar and I was turning the horses out for the afternoon, because I brought them in for lunch and then I set them back out for the evening. And as I was walking up one of them out to her fucking pasture, or her paddock, I heard, whoop-boom. Look.
It's like, the fuck was that?
And there was a fucking eagle next to me and it fucking dove into a fucking bunch of horse shit and was fucking tearing through it looking for something. And didn't find it and then left. I asked later on, I says, man, that thing fucking dove in the horse shit. He goes, yeah, they do that. They're looking for little mice and stuff and little bugs that go in there, little beetles and shit. That sometimes there's creatures in there. So they've learned to scatter it and look for shit in the horse droppings. Little apples. Road apples.
Man, they must really want food bad.
Yeah, and then
it's
it took
gonna
off.
dive into a big pile.
But I heard it land. It was like a damn fucking UFO. What the fuck?
Yeah.
It's tearing through all that shit, and for a few seconds it goes, nope. And then it takes off.
Nothing in that one.
Nothing in that one.
Struck out again.
Yeah, and it was close.
That's funny. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember being shocked at how fucking enormous those
big,
are.
yeah, they're fucking big.
Close. The same
Standing
thing
on the ground, its head was about up here probably.
Yeah, they're massive.
Yeah.
The same thing happened the first time that I saw a pelican up close. Because like I said, I'd always see them flying around. And they look big when they're flying. But I was like at the beach one time or like out fishing or something. And one landed and like sat like right next to me. I'm like, holy crap. It was as big as I was. But yeah, they are also quite large. So where was I? Okay, so he decided on alligators because why not? You know what's weird is that I'm not sure if it's a chain, but there's like a mini golf chain. What the fuck is it called? Adventure golf or something? I don't know. And there was one in Daytona, and I think there's one in Orlando too. And one of their gimmicks is that they have live alligators. Mm. I don't think they feed people to them that we know of. But yeah, if you lose like on the mini golf, they're like, sorry, buddy, and they throw it. But I think they're small. But I think that's one of their gimmicks. I don't know if they still do it or not. But I just remember the sign, like passing the sign all the time when I lived in Daytona. Live alligators. I was like, oh, so they just let those kind of run around while you're playing mini golf. That sounds like a good idea. With all those like little kids out there. So he goes and gets these alligators somehow. I'm not sure how he procured the alligators. But he dug this big hole behind the bar and filled it in with cement, so it was a cement pond.
Cement
It was
pond.
a cement pond.
That's from fucking
Beverly Hillbillies. I know, that's why I said it.
Cement pond.
The cement pond. And
cement pond is a pool, people.
Yeah.
For you Yankees.
Cement pond.
Yeah.
And that and like that's because my grandma always watched Beverly Hillbillies growing up. That and the Jethro Bowl, like we always used to tease my brother eating cereal out of the Jethro Bowl, but because it's this big fucking bowl like that. So yeah, so he digs a cement pond, and then like he puts water in it obviously, and then puts the gators in there, and then thankfully he put a big fence around it because he didn't want his little gators wandering off, and so yeah, He was, turns out he was right about the alligator thing because it was a really, really popular attraction. Like, everybody would want to come out and see the alligators. And, this is a little disturbing. But on Saturday nights, the big thing to do, I mean, this is a pretty small town, y'all, and this is like the 1920s. So, there's obviously, like, fuck all to do. So, Saturday nights, everybody would come to this little Tin Pot Shack bar in Elmendorf, Texas, and watch Joe feed stray animals to the alligators,
Dang.
including puppies and kittens.
Oh shit, live ones, huh?
Yes.
What an asshole.
So yeah, like when I read that, and I read like a quote which I have down, which I'll read to you in a second. But when I read that, I was like, oh, it made me want to cry.
Yeah, most people who have alligators don't feed puppies and chickens to them. Or puppies and kittens to them. They feed chickens to them. That's what you feed them usually.
At the alligator farm,
yeah,
in St. Augustine, they feed them chickens, and also they feed them weasels.
Yeah, it's because you can get those cheap out of the fur industry.
Yeah.
Poor little weasels.
I know.
Weasels make good pets if you raise them.
I mean,
like
I'm not sure what they feed them like all the time, because
Yeah.
I've been there like on feeding days sometimes, and it's crazy because like they'll they have this wheelbarrow full of either dead chickens, or one time I saw like it was weasels.
Dead weasels or living weasels?
No, they're dead.
Okay.
They don't feed them anything alive. I think that would be like too alarming.
Man,
Because like tourists are watching, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's like nobody wants to see a live fucking weasel.
I bet you they were alive when they got them, though. They broke all their necks.
Yeah, they might have. I'm not sure.
I've heard
or they might get them frozen. I don't know.
It used to be, in the fur industry, they'd fucking take weasels and ermines and minks and shit like that. And the fur industry worked so fast, they would skin them alive. I can't understand how a person could skin something like that
No,
alive.
I wouldn't be able to do that.
I couldn't do that. I could chop its head off
I don't even
and
think
then
I could do
skin
that.
it. But skinning it alive, I heard that they just thought that shit was funny. But I don't know how
And
a
because
widespread
they're
practice that was.
Sociopaths?
Yeah.
Then? That's some serial killer shit.
The Chinese do it regularly. They think it tenderizes the meat. Skinning dogs
I have
alive and then
heard
eating
that.
them is fucking horrible. Yeah. Yeah, the Chinese are not good for animal rights, or they're cruel.
But
Not all of them. I think the suburban ones are starting, they have pets, some of them now, the younger generation. But the older, like their version of boomers, the Chinese, they call them the useless generation. That's what
So boomers are terrible all around the world.
yeah. The Chinese call their boomer generation the useless generation because they came out of a communist society. They can't do anything. They can't do anything for any kind of money. They're just kind of parasitic. They walk into a Starbucks and just go up there and just fucking take all the creamers and walk out because it's free. It's like they think it's like an issue.
I saw an old lady do
They
that.
just
once
do shit
at-
like that. Yeah,
at
go in there and fucking steal
a
all the
coffee
toilet paper.
shop.
Yeah,
Like just
they'll
even-
take anything that isn't nailed down.
like right into the purse.
If it's free, they'll take it all.
I was
They'll
like, damn,
go into a
Mildred.
fast food place and just empty out all the fucking ketchup packets and shit, and just walk
Like
out.
I've seen old people do that here too.
Yep.
That's I was like, buy your own ketchup. They can afford it. Fucking yeah. That's fucking crazy. But yeah, so the few times that I was at the alligator farm when they did the feeding, yeah, they don't throw live animals in there.
Yeah.
But the alligators, no. Because alligators, like I said, most of the time they just lay there.
Yeah.
And they're so
not
much
active.
so much so that they're soaking the sun up. They're reptiles, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They need like power up before they can move around. So they even have signs all over the alligator farm that says, yes, they are alive. Please do not touch them. Because most of the time they're just like laying there and they don't look like they're moving. They look like they're made of rock or something.
There's no reason to move. They don't move.
Yeah, they don't move. They just sit there.
They conserve energy.
But when it's feeding time, oh, they can move. Oh my God. Like they'll, all the keepers start doing the wheelbarrows through the park.
Yeah.
And the alligators hear it
Here
or
it
they know
comes.
what time it is.
Yeah.
Like they all just convert, like whether in their water or they're like on land or whatever, they start running and running and running.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I have video somewhere. I don't remember what I did with it. I might have shown it on here a long time ago. I have video of the guy, the keeper, like holding like weasels over, and there's just like 40 million and they're like climbing on each other, like trying to get up on. I'm like, oh my God, that dude's gonna get eaten. But I guess he's like used to it.
Alligators are wonderful things when you think about it. They do not know how long alligators live.
No.
and they don't ever stop growing, and there's no signs of aging in them. They'll have some of them that are over 100 years old that are just as lively as a young one. What seems to happen is that they get so big that they can't meet their daily requirement of calories.
Because you got to eat a lot to maintain a body.
And they just fucking kind of slowly starve. And once they get into a caloric deficit, they can't get out of it. And there's been stories of one in captivity that lived way beyond 100 years, but then they find it dead. And then they do more investigation. They find out that the dude who fed it, who owned it, was dead. He hadn't fed it.
Oh, yeah.
And he died. An old man died up in the damn house, been in there for a fucking month dead. And as soon as they go into a caloric deficit, you can feed them all day long. They can't recover because they're behind. They're too much in debt calorically. Evidently, birds can do that. You'll find fucking birds of prey fucking on the ground dying. And it's actually starving. They'll be trying to stuff food down in it to get it alive, but it's too late a lot of times. They just can't. It's in too much of a deficit. They can't come back.
Well, that's kind of the downside of like continuing to grow throughout your entire life. Is like I said, it takes a lot of calories to maintain a body that large, and you can't. If you can't find enough food to sustain yourself, then you're
in the dinosaur age. Those things were fucking huge, and they probably can get that big. It's just that back in the dinosaur era, they had more food, and the food that they were eating was bigger, so there was more protein to go around, so they could grow big. For all you know, them fucking 25-foot, 30-foot long fucking super alligator might have been 300 years old. There's no way of knowing.
Yeah, I don't think they ever figured out, because remember that one that they had at the alligator farm, Gomek? He was a crocodile.
Yeah.
And they caught him in the 30s, I want to say. And they had him for a long... He's dead now, like they stuffed him. But I saw him when he was still alive, and that fucker was enormous.
Yeah.
He was 22 feet long, which is big enough on its own, but I think what scared me the most was how big around he was.
Yeah. If a medieval European had seen that, they would have said it was a dragon.
Yeah.
They said, that's a dragon. That may have been what they were talking about.
Because that shit was horrifying. He was massive. And like I said, they had him for a long time.
Yeah.
And like when he died, I don't remember, he died like several years back, and then they just had him stuffed, and now they have like a big display about him. And
one thing on the side is that they don't seem to ever die of old age. And one explanation that I heard is that they did fucking test on them. Their testosterone levels are super high. Same thing on a shark. They have testosterone, a lot of it, which that might have something to do with it. Either that, or they just produce a lot of it, and they just live a long time. Weird. I'm going to give you another drink.
Yeah. Kenny says same goes for whales and sea turtles. They don't know how long they live.
Yeah.
Prehistoric beasts. Yeah. Some of those fucking sea turtles are fucking gigantic too. CB said, if I remember correctly, it was the zoo in London that kids threw rabbits into the lion's enclosure. God, that's horrible. Oh my god. CB said, yeah, Tom, I watched Japanese street food being prepared. They didn't kill the poor animals before cutting them up. See, I can't... No food is worth that. I mean, the only time I would even consider that is if I was literally starving to death. And even then, it's just like, I can't do it. You know what I mean? I can't even squish a spider, you guys. I can't. You know what I mean? CB says, Jenny, do you remember the Lion Man from about 15 years ago? That sounds vaguely familiar, but I'm not entirely sure.
There you go.
So this miscreant would end up, it's his fault, because he was doing it. But I'm also going to indict, like, all the people there because they thought the shit was fucking hilarious, that he was just throwing these poor hapless little pets and animals in to be eaten by alligators. They just thought it was the funniest thing ever. So that was, like, what you did in this dinky little shithole of town was you'd go to this shitty roadhouse on Saturday night, you'd get completely blasted, and you would laugh your ass off as somebody threw squalling little innocent animals in to be eaten by alligators. Yes, I know alligators have to eat too, but geez, man, come on. So there was this book. This is where this quote came from when I was reading through this, and I was like, and I read this quote, and I was like, oh my god. It was like, even if the student didn't kill any people, which he did, it's like, even this I would never forgive him for. So this guy wrote this book. His dad, his name's Elton Coote Jr., and his dad was a deputy sheriff in the county where this, and he helped investigate Joe Ball, like, back in the day. So he heard all the stories about him from his dad, who's the sheriff. So he said, yeah, it was like this big thing. Every Saturday night, like, everybody would go and get shit-faced drunk, and any wild animal or pet he could get his hands on, he threw it to the alligators. And they also found this other account from the time, like, that was contemporary. And this was the quote. The squalling kitten flopped into the pool. A big alligator lifted its jaws, closed like a vice, and the screaming cat was bitten in half. There's more to come, my pets, Big Joe Ball shouted, as the drink-crazed crowd roared in appreciation. And he next tossed a puppy into the bloody pool. So that's nice. Like I said, even if he hadn't killed any people, which he did, this shit is not forgivable.
Well, I'm sure he was doing that, but I think that's not characteristic of an alligator to bite something in half and waste it.
No.
Usually they just grab it and then they submerge with it and to drown it. Although it's not small enough to swallow it whole.
Yeah.
They would just, swallow it whole probably. Bloop. They kick
Although
the head
maybe
back.
I've seen when they feed the alligators, because he had more than there was 5 alligators in there.
Yeah.
If there's more than one alligator and they throw food in there, they'll fight over it. So
Yeah, they'll tear it
they'll
apart.
pull it apart.
Yeah,
because
I've
I've seen
something
him,
small as a kitten that would just land in an alligator's mouth. He'd just swallow it.
See, I just read that and I was like, oh,
Yeah,
oh no.
that's probably an exaggeration.
I'm sure. Well, it's still bad.
It's probably just swallowed whole, alive.
That doesn't really make it much better, does it?
Better than tearing it apart. It would just suffocate in there.
And like I said, that's shitty enough that he did that, but that everyone just thought it was funny. I was like, God, they were all fucking sociopaths back then or something. There's something the matter with those people.
They lived closer to death back then, you know what I mean? And fucking their rationale was, well, the Humane Society's killing all these things anyway, gassing them every day. And
I don't want good. That's not good.
I don't want the cat as a fucking pet. What year was this? 30s, right?
Yeah, this might have been 20s, actually.
Cats really weren't kept as pets until like the 50s. You couldn't even get cat food or cat litter. Remember?
Which, yeah, like I said, that blew my mind.
Yeah.
I think we talked about that before, that was on that, I think it was The Food That Built America, or whatever, that History Channel series.
Yeah, cats lived
And they did a whole episode about cat and dog food. They said there really was no
food for
purpose-made cat or dog food until, like, the 1950s.
Yeah.
I think it was.
Yeah.
Like, before that, you just gave them table scraps.
Yeah, that was...
Or the cats just ate mice or
dogs
whatever.
and cats were a country thing, and they lived outside. And they'd maybe come up on your porch, and you'd feed them some scraps, but then they also, like, hunted in your local area. So they were kind of wild. They weren't something that you could bring into the house all the time. Dogs sometimes a little bit, but not cats. They pissed everywhere, especially the males,
Because they didn't get them fixed.
Yeah, they didn't get anything fixed. They didn't have money for that.
Yeah.
The incomes were real low back then.
But
a cat was something that lived outside.
Like I said, it just seems like not an era. I'm glad it was an era I did not live in. You know what I mean?
They didn't have the concept of pet.
Yeah.
They didn't have pets.
I guess not.
They had farm animals. They had pet dogs and toy dogs and shit like that. But, that was about it. Remember, fucking little Dorothy had a fucking pet dog. He had a fucking Wizard of Oz. Some people had pets.
Yeah, and that was.
But that was kind of a luxury thing.
Although Wizard of Oz, the movie was 1939, but the books that it was based on are older than that.
Yeah. Well, no, Europeans had pets.
Yeah.
You can there were paintings of medieval Europeans, like from the 1400s, and there's like a famous painting of a little rich girl, and she's got a pet ferret.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I know.
Yeah, and other ones with little pet dogs, little girls with their dogs and ferrets, which is kind of an interesting thing because a ferret was an American animal. That's not from Europe. And it was kind of like showing off that was from the New World. We used to export ferrets. 1500s.
Ferrets are cool.
Yeah.
I knew a guy I used to work with that had a couple of them. They were cool as shit.
Well, it was. I think if I remember correctly, it was an Italian girl. Although it's a pretty famous painting of an Italian
I know what painting
girl.
you're talking about, but
and she's got a little ferret, and it's acting crazy. She's all dressed up.
It was funny because one thing I remember that he said about his ferrets was that the thing they loved the most was remote controls. Like, they loved anything with a bunch of buttons on it. And it's like, you had to watch because they would steal it and they had like all these little stashing, like hiding places, like in the apartment. So it's like you never just like, gee, where's the remote control today? And you'd have to like go hunt for it because they would always take it because they thought it was their toy.
Ferrets are clowns.
Which is funny because Pookie also loves remote controls.
You have to have 2 of them or you'll never have any peace.
Yeah, he had 2.
Because they play with each other constantly.
Yeah.
If you only have one, they fuck with you. They're constantly in your shit.
Yeah.
Or they'll tear the place up trying to keep themselves fucking busy. Like I said, they were hiding. The one we had was hiding dog food everywhere.
Yeah, they hide stuff.
Just hiding food everywhere. Just man, the dog's eating a lot.
Saving it for later.
You just move a cushion, a seat cushion, there'd be a whole pile of dog food there, where it's taking the dog biscuits and fucking hiding.
Yeah, they like to stash things.
Yeah.
But like I said, I thought it was funny because Pookie also likes remote controls. Although she mostly likes to sit on them.
Yeah.
For some reason. Like, I don't know why cats really like to, like, lay in the most uncomfortable positions possible, but it's like, if you put the remote, like, the Xbox remote or something, she'll just...
Because we have it in our hands a lot, so she's trying to be part of it.
She goes and flops right on it. Sometimes she'll chew on the little thing. But we've yelled at her about it enough times that she knows not to do it now.
Yeah.
Although sometimes she'll kind of rub on it and then look at us like, I'm not chewing it.
She'll sit on remotes, joysticks, tablets. Anything that's technology that you deal with a lot, she's going to lay on it.
Yeah, she just immediately goes over and goes, boop.
Yeah.
So it's like, where's the thing for the sound bar? And then we're like digging under her belly. There it is. And she's like,
the remote for the sound bar, yeah.
Yeah. She just like sit right on it. Precious says it's an ermine by Da Vinci. Yeah, that's right. Okay, yeah. So it was Leonardo da Vinci.
They did the
and it was an ermit, not a ferret.
Ermine?
Not a ferret.
I thought it was a ferret.
Yeah. I mean, they're kind of
similar.
They're kind of similar. Let's see. BitX Haroni says, "Goddamn, it's been a minute. How have y'all been?"
Hey.
Really good, thank you. How have you been? Yeah, it's been. How long has it been since you've been here? So we know like how. Have we changed a great deal since the last time you were here? Because sometimes we don't know. Like sometimes we see people that we haven't seen in a long time, and people are like, "Oh my God, Tom, you're
no, the bitch
you're bald."
That's the kid that works at the store over there.
Oh, okay. Well, it hasn't been that long though.
Yeah, a couple weeks.
He was just on the thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't been in the Dollar General. You went in the Dollar General yesterday, didn't you?
Yeah.
I thought.
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, I'm not happy about him feeding kitties and puppies to the alligators. So, not cool. But another thing that attracted, he was one thing if he wasn't a savvy businessman, right? So like the alligators, being fed little kitties and puppies, that was apparently a big draw because people were sociopaths back then. But he also hired, obviously, like a bunch of young hot waitresses, just like a Hooters. So a lot of the dudes would come there for that. And one of the first things that people started having rumors about was that a lot of the waitresses would work there for a little while, and then they would just, like, disappear, right? And there were jokes. Now, according to people that were alive back then, or knew people that were alive back then, they said there were jokes about him feeding his waitresses to the alligators even back in the 20s. Like, even before anybody really knew what was going on. So it was even kind of a meme, like, back then. It's like, hey, where'd Sally go? Or whatever. Oh, Joe must have fed her to the alligators. Yuck, yuck, yuck. You know what I mean? But, they're joking, but maybe not really. You know what I'm saying?
I was.
Well, the thing about it, though...
probably.
I'm not going to say in his defense, because he's indefensible, but this was a very transient time. So it was true that a lot of women would, they'd be traveling from here to there, they'd get off the train, and it's like they'd work somewhere for a little while to make a few bucks, and then they'd move on to the next town. So people did
Some of that might have happened.
a lot. So yeah, and that did happen in a few cases, they found out. Where it was just a case of, she was just trying to pick up some extra work, and then she just decided to move somewhere else or whatever, you know what I mean? So it wasn't as nefarious as it appeared, but the amount of people disappearing that worked for him that disappeared was a little more than usual, But that was Joe's excuse anyway, was that, hey, they just came here for a little while and were making some money, and then they left. I don't know where they went, right? A likely story. So, in 1934, Joe meets this woman named Minnie Gotthard. Gotthard? Better known as Big Minnie. You can probably imagine why they called her that. I've never seen a picture of her. I've seen a picture of some of his other girlfriends, but I haven't seen a picture of Big Minnie. So I don't know if she was big as in tall or big as in fat or... I don't know.
Probably fat.
Yeah.
Fat by the 30 standards.
Yeah. Yeah, fat by 30 standards.
Which probably wouldn't have been that fat.
Yeah, I mean, there were, like...
Chubby, probably.
Some pretty big-ass people back then.
Yeah.
But not as much as nowadays, so... Yeah, Precious said large Marge. Yeah, large Marge. This is Big Minnie. Now, Big Minnie was pretty universally disliked among the bar patrons and Joe's other friends. They thought she was real obnoxious and kind of bossy. But Joe apparently really dug her, you know? Like, they really got along. And he hired her, and they started, like... I don't know if she was like the bar manager or whatever the fuck. But they started running the Sociable Inn together. So they were together for about 3 years. And then Joe falls in love with one of his much younger waitresses. I believe she was 15 years younger than him. And her name was Dolores Goodwin, better known as Buddy. Because everybody had to have nicknames back then.
So what? How old are they now?
Let's see.
40s, and she's in her 30s.
He would have been in his 40s then.
Okay,
yeah. I think so.
All right.
Yeah.
She would have been in her late 20s, early 30s.
Yeah. Because like I said, he hired a lot of younger, hotter, hot waitresses to get people in there, which a lot of bars do.
That's what you would do, yeah. If you're not doing that, then you're not going to be a good bar owner.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of...
That's what you do, yeah.
That's what makes dudes come in there and buy drinks, you know what I mean? That's just how it works. So, he got all about her. And she also, apparently fell in love with him, even though, story goes, that one time, he threw a bottle at her or hit her with a bottle in the face. And she had a big scar, like, down the side of her face, like, all the way down her face, like, from her eyeball to her neck, right? Now, later on, she claimed, oh, he didn't throw the bottle at me. He was throwing it at somebody else, and it hit me by accident. And I was
covered for him.
And I was just kind of like, girl, yeah. So it's like, I think that was some kind of abusive fucking relationship, and she didn't want to, she was, like, all smitten and shit. But yeah, I'm like, yeah, he probably did. I probably full on just hit her with that fucking bottle, I would think. So he falls in love with her. Meanwhile, he's still in a relationship with Big Minnie. I don't know if the two of them knew about each other. They all work at the same bar, so it's like, I'm not sure how much you could hide it, you know? And then, a little while after that, in 1937, he hires another young woman who was then 22, and her name was Hazel Brown, better known as Schatzi. Which I guess is German for sweetheart or something like that. That's why they called her that. Because I was like, why would they call her Schatzi? That's such a Laverne and Shirley kind of name. You know what I mean? Just reminded me of Laverne and Shirley.
We had a friend my mother had a friend in Brazil. Her name was Schatzi. She was German.
But apparently, according to...
That may have been her nickname.
Yeah, I was listening to the interview that they did with Joe Ball's nephew, Bucky.
Yeah.
And he said they called her Schatzi because that's German for sweetheart. So it was like a nickname.
Yeah.
Because her name was Hazel.
She was married to an American guy, so yeah, that might have just been her nickname.
Yeah.
But I knew her as Schatzi.
Yeah, but that's what they called this girl too. And she was 22. And she was apparently really good looking. Now I have seen a picture of Schatzi.
Yeah.
And she's pretty, like for the day, you know what I mean? Is that a mean thing to say? I mean, she doesn't look like a fucking movie star or anything like that. But she was like, for a small town Texas, yeah, she was real good looking. And apparently she was real confident, real flirty, you know what I mean? So she was kind of sexy, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And Joe fell in love with her too. He's something of a Lothario, is Joe Ball.
Yeah.
Like this backwoods Texas. I guess it wasn't backwoods, but a little bit. But he just can't keep up with all these ladies, man. Too many ladies. And so he falls in love with her. So in case you lost count, he's now got 3 women on the hook, and they all work at the same bar as him, at the bar that he owns. How is he keeping this? I'm imagining like a sort of funny Benny Hill kind of sketch where he has. I don't remember if it was Benny Hill, but it was some other thing where he was like on a date with like two different women and he had to keep running back and forth like to the other tables like in the same restaurant. It's like I'm kind of picturing something like that where it was just like this big comedy of errors type of thing where he had like these three fucking women going at the same time. Why would you want to put... I mean, that just seems like so much trouble. You know? But whatever. So all of this is going on. And then, fortuitously, in 1937, Big Minnie disappeared. Wonder what could have happened there. So everybody asked Joe, hey, what happened to your girlfriend? Your longtime girlfriend that he'd been together with for several years. Oh, well, she left town because she had a mixed race baby. And she didn't want to get in
How
trouble.
did they define that, though? Was the daddy Italian?
Well, no, black.
Black is what they thought? Okay.
That's what he said.
Okay.
He said she had a black baby.
So who was it? Shotzi had the black baby?
No.
Which one was it?
Big Minnie.
Big Minnie, okay.
The first girlfriend.
The first girlfriend, yeah.
Who, I'm not sure how old she was, but
All right.
apparently she was older than the other two
Yeah.
20-year-olds that he took up with.
And yes, I was not joking. They used to consider fucking relationships like that to be interracial back in the day. That goes as far as like, you know, I Love Lucy with fucking Lucille Ball and
Desi Arnaz.
Desi Arnaz. They were a real life couple, right? That was considered. He was
that
from
was
Cuba.
that was a big deal,
That was considered to be an interracial relationship.
which is kind of funny nowadays. But
Yeah, even though fucking
I guess some
Desi
weird-
Arnaz was white as shit. He was a Spaniard. From Cuba.
I guess some weirdos would still consider that interracial. But
Yeah,
I
yeah.
would not.
Interethnic, but not interracial.
People worry too much about
Yeah.
it. It literally makes no difference.
Because he wasn't a native English speaker, so oh my god, that's another what the hell?
Oh, scandalous.
Yes.
I love that they were still like successful, anyways.
Yeah.
I mean,
Everybody loved him.
and Lucille Ball was cool as shit.
Yeah. They were very, very popular.
She was cool as shit.
Yeah, mainstream America accepted it. They're like, okay, because they poked fun at it.
Yeah,
The show
I mean,
poked
that's
fun at
kind
it.
of the thing that you
Yeah,
do. Because I
Yeah.
kind of feel like a lot of people, well, back in that era, nowadays people don't really have an excuse, but back
Yeah.
then, people didn't see it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like, and if you don't know about something, ooh, it's like
Yeah.
scary or weird or something like that. But it's like, if you see it and it's normal, it's like, oh, they're just like us. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then it's like not a big deal.
Yeah,
so.
if you guys are too young, we grew up seeing that shit on television as reruns. Okay,
Yeah.
but if you guys haven't seen it, you can watch it for free on YouTube. You can just watch a couple of them. They
I
were all
love
about the
Lucille
same.
Ball. She's funny as
Lucille
shit.
Ball was hilarious.
She's funny as shit.
Yeah, and her husband, fucking Desi
She's just
Arnaz.
adorable.
He plays a nightclub owner. Does he own the nightclub? Yeah, he owns and performs at the nightclub.
I think he does, yeah.
And sometimes they show him. He was actually a real musician in real life, and she's always getting in trouble, and he can't believe it. He goes, "Oh my God!" He's fucking, and he starts fucking going off on her in Spanish with the stupid shit that she does.
Oh my God.
She means well, though. You know, she would just. There was just all kinds of funny shit, like going to work at the candy shop. Her and Ethel.
Yeah.
Remember working at the candy
That
shop?
was like the most famous
They couldn't
episode.
keep up with the conveyor
So they
belt,
just
so
kept
they
eating.
fucking stopped. A lot of
I'm
fucking
sorry, that's
slapstick
still
humor.
funny.
Yeah, slapstick humor
That's
and
so
shit.
funny. Precious says, Lucy, you got some explaining to do. Some explaining to do.
Yeah.
I mean, that is becoming the cultural lexicon. You got some explaining to do. I don't know if younger people know
No,
that
they don't
that's
know
where
about
it
it.
comes from,
Now we're the last ones. Gen X is the last ones to know about that.
but that's where it comes from.
Yeah.
You got some explaining to do. Man,
Yeah.
now I kind of
The
want
show
to
is called I Love Lucy.
Now I want to watch I Love Lucy.
We'll watch some.
We should watch stuff later.
Yeah, it's
Maybe-
on YouTube.
Maybe Amazon has it, or yeah, YouTube probably has it.
Yeah, a lot of kids wouldn't watch it because it's black and white now. But you got to see I Love Lucy. You got to see Beverly Hills Billies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, I talked about
And once all the commercials are taken out, each episode's like only 15 or 20 minutes.
Yeah, they're really not long.
They're real short. They're hilarious though. Making fun of rednecks, hillbillies.
Yeah, that shit. I mean, some of the shit on there is still pretty funny.
Yeah.
Because I would submit that a lot of stuff from some shows, because I've watched some stuff like from the 60s and 70s that was funny back then that's not funny now.
Yeah.
But some of the shit back there from back then.
Yeah.
is still funny.
Beverly Hillbillies was all about misunderstandings.
Yeah, and that's always
Country
funny.
people misunderstanding city stuff, and city people misunderstanding country shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. In Beverly Hills. Actually, Beverly Hillbillies, I Love Lucy, The Munsters, and The Addams Family are all basically the same theme.
I was just going to say that exact same thing about the Addams Family, where it's almost like a reversal of, hey, we're the weirdos, but all the normal people are like, what the fuck? And they're just like, what the hell is up with these people? Like, they see themselves as completely normal, and everyone else is the weirdos.
The people that wrote it were basically in the California area and had people from all over the world. And you had people that were in interracial relationships. And that's what the Addams Family was about.
Yeah.
Imagine if your neighbors are not like you. They come from somewhere else. They don't look quite like you. They're a mixed family. Everybody in the family's different from one another. That was, in white bread, old school America, that was unusual.
Yeah.
So they cast it as the Addams Family, which was kind of like a goth version of that. Morticia and Gomez, they were two different ethnic groups.
Yeah.
And there's a big Spanish, Gomez was a Latin.
Yeah.
And fucking Morticia was.
And that plays into the plot
That plays right into it a lot, yeah. And then the Uncle Fester, he's a crazy motherfucker, and Cousin It, you don't even know what it is.
Yeah.
You can't tell if it's male or female. One of them's the Thing. It's just a fucking hand.
Yeah.
So it's all this ambiguous shit.
Yeah.
And then fucking Lurch. Is that Frankenstein? You don't know. You don't even know if that's a mortal human. Well, that's the idea. To totally alienate you. And that it's okay. That you don't have to understand. That's what
and I love
the purpose of those stories, those shows, were to teach people that not everyone is in the same box as you. Don't worry about it. It's all right.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Well, and what I thought was cool about the Addams Family, why I loved it so much growing up, was that as weird, quote unquote, as the Addams Family were, they were always the coolest and the nicest people. Like, everyone else was kind of shitheads. Yeah. But they were always really good, and they were always really honorable, and
they understood others when others didn't understand them.
Exactly. And I always thought that was so cool. Like, I really, really liked that. Yeah. That kind of comes from the comics, too. Yeah. They're just kind of adapting Charles Addams comics, but, I just think that's
the
really
moral
cool.
of the story. The same thing with the Munsters is the people that aren't like you are surprisingly very much like you. That's what it means.
Yeah, they're not that different.
Yeah.
Like, even if they have man-eating plants and keep lions as pets.
Yeah, and they have some family members that are totally normal.
Yeah.
And they don't think they're quite normal.
I wouldn't either, honestly. Like, because I think, Addams Family, they didn't really have anybody that was normal, but Munsters, they did. They had that one normal, and they all thought she was like a freak.
She was a super pretty normie chick, and they all treated her like she was ugly and like she was like poor little handicapped,
Which is kind of probably what I would have done too.
Everything was role reversal.
What's wrong with you, Barbie?
Yeah. It would be like everything was role reversal.
Oh my god. Yeah, CB said we get the Beverly Hillbillies in the UK. Yeah. It's on Talking Pictures TV.
Okay, yeah.
And
who said this?
CB said
CB said, yeah.
So yeah, they have it in the...
Yeah, Beverly Hillbillies is good.
It was pretty funny. And Smugside said, I love the original Addams Family, also the Munsters. Yeah, I mean, original Addams Family is still good, and it's still funny. And, I'll just defend that till I fucking die. And Smugside also said the Addams Family movies were hilarious, both of them. Yeah, they did a really good job. Like, those came out in the 90s, right?
Yeah.
I think.
And there were goths then.
Well, yeah. There
were goths. But the thing is, there were very few of them, and they were famous, like Mela Nurmi.
Yeah, like back when Addams Family first
came out. When the Addams Family came out, yeah.
Originally, yeah.
And Mela was also known as Vampira. She had her own little show, but she actually dressed like that before she had the show. She got the show because she was goth.
Yeah.
And she was dating James Dean and shit. And I think Elvis knew her. Didn't Elvis know her?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. Elvis knew her.
She said he did anyway.
Yeah, and she was wearing some wild shit in the 50s. She'd have a Chelsea haircut, her head shaved, just bangs. Sexy, big boobs.
That's pretty fucking ballsy for, back then.
Yeah, she was way ahead of her time. She was crazy, though, too.
Yeah.
People got sick of her real quick. She was real snotty.
But,
Very snotty and aloof, and she didn't have any money.
Yeah. I feel kind of bad for her, though.
Yeah.
She kind of got a raw deal.
She got a raw deal, yeah.
Well,
Elvira stole her fucking gig, basically, even though she wasn't doing that act anymore, so...
So, hey, it was open season.
It was open.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't blame Elvira.
No, I'd have done the same thing.
A.K.A. Cassandra Peterson.
Yeah.
It was very similar. But
Mela had been out of business for a long, long time.
Elvira was kind of doing her own shtick, too. I kind of feel like she was, like,
It was a different character.
Yeah, it was a different character. She was, like, more funny.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah.
Than Vampire.
Funnier and tougher.
Yeah. It was more that kind of
She was kind of like a tough biker chick. And funny.
Yeah.
Boobs. Fantastic. I was a kid watching that shit. I was into boobology at a young age. I grew up with it. It was like a disease, you know what I mean? Fucking, yeah. I'd be like fucking 12, 13 years old looking at fucking her boobs and just going, God, with that super low cut fucking V-neck thing. That was probably the beginnings of fucking my appreciation of the goth aesthetic was probably seeing Elvira on television. I didn't know about male Inermian Vampira until much later.
Yeah, that was kind of... I learned about her through the Misfits.
Yeah. Yeah.
As I guess a lot of little punk rock kids did. You know what I mean?
You would only occasionally see a picture or a photograph of her because it was pre-internet.
Yeah.
And you could only see an old photo of her. You know.
Precious...
And none of her episodes have survived. You can't watch Vampira.
Yeah, sad.
I think the only thing that survived is just a few seconds of her intro. Everything else is gone. It was erased. They recorded over it.
Yeah, because remember how I said, like, when we did the Lost Media show,
yeah,
a lot of TV from that era does not survive because they didn't keep it. Like, why would they? They didn't have anywhere to store it. Like, they didn't think anybody would ever watch it again. Like, some of it was just game shows and, you know, like, little horror intros and stuff. Like, who the fuck would ever want to see that?
And I had to say,
little did they know.
Both Mela and Cassandra, they were both pretty. They were good. They were good looking. But I had to say Mela Nurmi was better looking. The original.
She was beautiful.
She had a real good look. Yeah. And
like classically beautiful.
Yeah. And she was actually really corseted. Her fucking waist was like maybe fucking 11 inches. I mean, her waist was like that. Big boobs and stuff. She was kinky though. She self-corseted in an era when women didn't do that anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was very much...
that was weird. Yeah.
A very small subculture.
Yeah.
Like fetish kind of stuff.
She looked like a fetish bondage queen.
Yeah.
In the 50s.
Like I said, there was that stuff going around.
Yeah, yeah.
Because Betty Page did some of that.
Yeah.
You know, light S&M kind of stuff. But it was very scandalous.
Yeah, Vampira was a lot harder edge looking though.
Back in those days.
Big, long, pointed fingernails.
It wasn't even legal to sell photos like that. Like, they had to sell them, like, under the counter and shit.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. Because now you can just get anything you want, but it's just kind of funny. Precious said, I met the Mistress of the Dark. She is so gracious. I've never met her. She seems like she'd be a cool person, though. And I love that she still looks fucking great. Even though she's got, I don't know how old she is.
She actually did a Playgirl shoot with a dude. Okay, the dude was like the center of the thing, but you can see a Cassandra Peterson layout. I saw it when I was a kid. My mom had that issue. It was the same one that had
Burt Reynolds. Yeah, because we were talking about that the other day. And
there's a scene with a guy and a guy and a redhead in there, and that's Cassandra Peterson.
Yeah,
you can find it easily. It's just
it's out there.
It's out there.
It's pretty famous.
Yeah.
Well, I think, like I said, that Burt Reynolds issue of Playgirl was very famous.
Was real famous.
So there's pictures of it scanned all over the place.
And she looks great in it. Like I said, though, you don't show a whole lot. It's very tame by today's standards.
Yeah. Well, you had to take what you could get back then. You know what I mean?
Oh, soft filter photographs, mostly just boob shots, you know.
Yeah. Okay, so where was I? Okay, so Joe's first girlfriend, Big Minnie, has disappeared. He tells everybody it's because she had a black baby and she didn't want anybody to find out about it. So a couple months after she disappeared, he married Dolores, a.k.a. Buddy, the second girlfriend. And then he tells Dolores, I guess not allegedly, because Dolores did say this later. He told her that, Minnie didn't leave. I took her to a beach and shot her and buried her out there.
Why did he tell her that?
Now, I don't know how he said it, but she said that she didn't believe him at the time. She was like, fuck off. What are you talking about? You know what I mean? Like, she thought he was joking, maybe?
Yeah.
Spoiler alert, he was not joking.
Yeah.
But I guess
did she have the black baby?
No.
He made that up.
He made that up.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
As we will discover later on. But he told his new wife, Dolores, a.k.a. Buddy, Minnie didn't run off. I went and shot her and I buried her. And she's just like, oh, haha. I don't know, like I said, I don't know if he said it like he was being funny or if he said it like as a threat Like, hey, if you fuck me over, I'll do the same thing to you. I don't know. I don't know what the
Probably-
content of that discussion was. She didn't take it seriously. She didn't believe him.
So it must have sounded like a joke.
She didn't believe him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And she said that he didn't mention it again. Now, not long after they got married, Dolores was in a horrible car accident and had to have one of her arms amputated, like at the shoulder, because I have seen a picture of her, and she does have only have one arm. Now, from what I heard from Joe Ball's nephew, Bucky, he tried to explain the accident, like the car accident. It kind of sounded like some shit that happened in The Hand, like the Michael Caine movie, where she said she was... I'm not sure if I can picture like exactly what he's talking about. It's like she was trying to make a turn or something, and then there was like a truck that had all these cedar poles on it, like for building a fence or something. And she like put her arm out the car, like to wave them around or something like that, and it hit her arm.
Yeah.
And basically, I don't know if it took it completely off or if it just broke it so much that they couldn't fix it or whatever.
Probably compound fracture hanging by a bunch of.
But yeah,
meat.
so the long and short of it was that she had to have the entire arm amputated. Now, because Joe already had a reputation for feeding his waitresses to alligators, and his wife suddenly has one arm, the story started going around that the alligator had actually bitten her arm off. I don't think this is true. As far as I know, it actually was like a terrible car accident. That's what his nephew said anyway. But that was what was going on, which, obviously that's what you would think. He's got all these alligators. He's kind of famous for it.
It could be.
And his wife turns up with one arm.
Here's the thing. Was there an accident report?
Well, see, I'm not sure. Like I said, I know that the two sources I saw, like from the one guy that went back in the files and like found out, like he said it was a car accident, and Joe Ball's nephew said it was a car accident, and he actually even described what happened.
Okay.
Because he had apparently, I don't think he was alive at the time, but he'd heard it described by his
He's not a
dad
witness.
or something.
He's not
like
a witness
that.
though. Because here's something that is kind of plausible. There are videos out there of people feeding alligators. And people not being attentive. And while they're feeding one alligator, another alligator would come and grab them by the arm. Snap. First thing an alligator does is they can't bite or chew in the way that other animals do. They start rolling.
Yeah.
And when it rolls, it'll fucking snap and twist an arm right off.
Mm-hmm.
That is what it does. Especially if it's a decent-sized alligator. I've seen that happen to people, and what they do is they start rolling with the alligator to keep it from breaking their arm. It may be that she was feeding the alligators, and one of the alligators did that to her to snap her arm off.
Sure, it's possible.
And then to keep him out of trouble for the business, she made a story. Like, yeah, it happened by the car. Car did it. Because she didn't want the fucking cops to come and kill all the damn alligators, and then they'd be out of business.
Yeah, or didn't
so
want
there's
to
a
get him to get
possibility it might have been an accident with the alligators.
And that she covered up.
That she covered up, right.
So it was either a car accident or
she covered up for an accident on
or an alligator bit her arm.
Yeah.
We're not
That's plausible.
Sure. Not entirely sure.
They can grab and just roll, and they can roll fast, and if they weigh a lot, they'll just twist an arm right off.
CB says, at school on field trips, the school told us to keep arms in the windows. Yeah, I mean, even I saw The Hand with Michael Caine, like when I was a kid.
Yeah,
and that accident scene traumatized me so much.
Same with me. I can't.
That
put my
it's just
hand
like
out
I will not put my hand out the window for any reason.
Nope. Drive
like
a car.
Even to this day.
Back when I was smoking, I would smoke and I'd fucking flick the ashes out the window sometime like that, and I'd be real fucking.
And you were
paranoid
because of that fucking movie.
Because that fucking movie where
that scene really traumatized me.
That fucking car comes by and swipes him, side swipes the car and fucking
takes his hand
off. That was, I couldn't put my hand outside the window of any kind of car.
That really
we
bothered
grew
me.
up seeing that shit. She was the same as me.
Yeah, that really bothered me.
And that is a great movie. Y'all want to see The Hand, Oliver Stone.
Yeah, we talked about that. Yeah, that's one of
Michael Caine
early movies.
Badass flick.
We reviewed it.
Yeah.
Any movie that had any kind of like limb amputation, dismemberment, beheading, that it always kind of traumatized me. I'm just really traumatized by that. So, and especially that fucking scene freaked me the fuck out. And still kind of does, honestly. So when I was thinking about this woman losing her arm, whether it was in an accident, as the nephew said, or whether it was an alligator bitten off, as all the rumors said at the time. I'm not really sure. Either way, it's pretty fucking horrible. Now, interestingly, so she lost her arm, however she lost her arm, in January of 1938. Now, only a couple months later, though, in April, she also disappeared. And then, not long after that, his third girlfriend, because he had 3 going out at the same time.
Stevie said I didn't want to lose my wanking hand.
You wanna lose your
Bitch, you don't know me. I'll wank with either hand.
He's ambidextrous.
Wanking ambidextrous, either hand.
Do you really? I never really noticed which one.
I can use either hand. Either hand.
I could also use either hand. That's pretty funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, do people have a designated wanking hand?
Some, like, one-dimensional motherfuckers do. I'm a connoisseur, man.
If you're really cool, you can go, like, from one to the other.
Go one, yeah. It's like, yeah.
That's, like, some next-level shit. You know what I mean? It's just some person. That probably wouldn't feel good at all.
If you go left-handed, you go underhanded on that bitch.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes that's good, too.
Yeah, you just...
Tom giving out the tips.
Well, I'd be, me and you were fucking around during a lot of that shit. You know what I mean? So
that's what I
have
mean.
a hand free.
Well, that's what I mean. It's like, and
Yeah.
I'm just like, and I'm trying to think. It's like,
Yeah.
what hand was he using? I
Yeah,
can't remember
yeah.
now. I wasn't really paying attention.
Me and Jen roll around getting crazy.
I'm gonna
Toys and everything.
I can remember what hand you were using.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's why I laughed, because I was just kind of like, yeah, which he could probably wank with his feet if he wanted to.
No.
You never tried that?
No, I couldn't do it.
You don't
I don't think
so?
I'm flexible enough. I can wank with your feet. But your,
in case your hands got cut off, like in that Michael Caine
Yeah,
movie,
just use your feet.
then he'd have to use my hands or my feet.
Or your cleavage.
Yeah, you'd probably like that better.
Yeah, just grab around you like that, shake you up and down. You fucking grab it the top of your head, fucking shit. That shit's just like a boom, 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 boom. That'd be a good video. We need to make that.
Yeah, you love that shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, CB said I do it with both hands too.
What's that? CB says he go
I
both
do
handed
it.
too.
I do it with both hands.
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
Like at the same time, like you need both hands.
He switched.
Like, wow.
See all these girls getting all fascinated.
No, I'm just like, that's really funny. Precious said, Jen, does he hump your leg?
Yeah, I'll do that.
I think, yeah, you have done that, haven't you?
Yeah.
Like, not like a dog would hump your leg.
No, I'm just slide all around like the shadow.
The shadow, yeah, he does
Yeah,
all kind
yeah.
of crazy shit. He does all kind of crazy
They can do all kinds of cool shit.
Oh my god. How did we get from that?
I don't know, man.
Oh,
All
because
talk about
wanking hand, yeah.
Yeah, all these perverted shit.
So, okay, so only a couple months after she lost her arm, she disappeared also. And then the third girlfriend, Hazel, also disappeared. So, again, rumors starting to circulate. It's like, wonder where all those ladies went that he was seeing. It's like, seems funny that they all kind of disappeared within a few months of each other, right? There are also some stories about how protective Joe was about his alligators. There was a story that went around. There was a neighbor that came over and said how much the property stunk because of all the rotting meat, you know what I mean? Like food he was feeding the alligators. And story goes that the neighbor comes over to be like, hey, what the fuck with all this stink? And Joe pulls out a gun at him and said, oh, well, it must be the alligator's food that's causing all the stink. And it's like, how would you like to be some of the food, too?
Yeah.
At which point, neighbor's like, never mind. And left town. Because he was like so scared of getting shot by him. So, there was that. Now, so, in spite of all these mysterious disappearances, business is still going well. I guess he's still feeding little innocent kitties and puppies to the alligators, and everybody's there cheering like assholes.
He must be getting these from the Humane Society if they had that back then. They
I'm not really sure where they were getting them. Like, they said he would also throw them like raccoons or anything like. So he was like catching like wild animals too. Like, I guess he was just picking up strays or whatever.
Because that should be hard to get.
You'd think.
Yeah.
That's like fucking crazy.
Yeah.
So
it's easier just to buy feed.
Yeah, you'd think. But like I said, I guess I don't think he did it every night. I think it was just kind of like a special occasion type of thing. Like every Saturday night, like, ooh, it's Saturday night, let's go
because
watch some kittens get eaten by alligators.
We're not talking about the brightest bulb But he could, on this property, just build a chicken coop and fucking have enough chickens to generate all the eggs and all the chickens you would need to feed those alligators if you had a decent sized chicken coop.
Yeah.
And it would just be for free. And you could have them free range chickens.
Yeah.
You know, they'll feed themselves. Then they come back.
Yeah, you would think that would be like a lot cheaper.
Be a lot cheaper, yeah.
But maybe, I don't know, man. I don't know what was going on in this town. I don't know if they had like an inordinate amount of like stray animals running around or something. Or like I said, I don't know how often he would do that.
Because you'd think that their food demands would be pretty high. So you need to
that's
have
5 alligators.
You're right. So I'd have a huge chicken coop. Enough to feed me and the alligators.
Man, I swallowed wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, you do that all the time.
See, I walked into that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Precious says if you use your left hand, it feels like a completely different person doing it.
Precious must be a dude.
Oh my god, that's funny. TVD Dragon said, Tom, there was a video in Florida of an alligator fighting a crocodile for a basking spot.
Yeah.
If you have to put an alligator on a PED stack, what would you prescribe?
I give that fucking alligator like 3 grams of testosterone every fucking week. And about 2 grams of fucking trenbolone. A fucking strong trenbolone. Like fucking 200 milligram trenbolone. That's what I give.
Because I'm not sure if this is still the case, but we always grew up hearing that Florida is the only place where both alligators and crocodiles live natively. Yeah. Like in the Everglades.
Yeah.
Because normally their habitats don't overlap. But I don't know if that's still the case or not.
Yeah, I give an alligator a shit ton of fucking testosterone and tren. Lots of it. I'm sure they could take a lot.
But I mean, because, crocodiles tend to be, depending on the species, larger and more aggressive than alligators. I'm not saying you should fuck with alligators because you shouldn't. But crocodiles do tend to get bigger, and they are a lot more aggressive.
I was reading the comments of a fucking group, a bodybuilding group online I was fucking following. Dude had a fucking pit bull, but it had been fixed. And when he was doing tests, he fucking thought about that dog, and he's like, man, that dog doesn't have any balls. So he started giving the fucking dog test. He said the dog fucking chased off all the fucking dogs and attacked everything on the fucking... He said he had the most badass dog on the fucking... in his neighborhood. Fucking pit bull on heavy fucking amounts of testosterone. Said that fucking... that pit bull got alpha as fuck.
Tigglytooth says, would you rather fight with an alligator or a crocodile?
Alligator.
Well, like I said, crocodiles tend to be bigger and meaner unless it's one of those kind of more, like, the more Asian style crocodiles that have, like, those thinner, like those real thin snouts. Because they probably, I mean, they could probably still fuck you up, but they probably couldn't hurt you as much as something with a mouth that was big enough to put your whole head inside.
Alligators are dangerous, but they're not as aggressive as a crocodile.
Yeah, generally.
Generally, yeah.
Unless you start fucking with their eggs or something like that, and then they will lay the smack down on you. I wouldn't fuck with one ever. Yeah. You know, like I don't. Even if they're just sitting there, I'm not touching them. I'm not going over there going, ooh, look at the alligator. I'm not doing that.
And they can get huge. I've seen videos of alligator here in Florida walking across a damn golf course and they look like a damn dragon.
Yeah,
big.
They get really big.
Yeah.
And the thing about it is that because they just sit around still all the time, I think some people, especially if they're not from here, like they think they're not any threat. I'm like, those bitches can run, and they can run very fast. So it's like they don't look like they can, but they absolutely can. They can catch. They will catch you.
Yeah, they don't run. They can't run for very far.
No,
but they'll boom and come right after you. A short burst of speed and grab your ass. And what they do is they grab you and then they take you to the water and submerge with you and drown you.
Yep.
That's how they kill you.
Then they stuff you down
and
in
they
there.
Stuff you down there and let you rot.
So you're nice and
and soft, and then they fucking pull you apart.
And yummy.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, like I said, they got to eat too.
There's a famous online video of some woman, poor woman, middle-aged woman in her fucking dress. All right, it was like kind of like a moo-moo, floating in the water, and behind her, pushing her, is a fucking Florida alligator. And the guys are on a bridge, fucking going, oh, and they're South American guys, in Spanish, are going, oh my God, look at that, look at that.
Yeah.
They go, yeah, that's what happens. It was a pretty big alligator, maybe 10 feet. 10, 11 feet. They get much bigger than that, but it was a pretty big one.
That one that was walking on that golf course that time was fucking
Yeah.
enormous.
Yeah.
That even like fucking scared the shit out of me. And I
The way she was dressed, she wasn't in the water. Or
Yeah.
when she was walking around on land, and it grabbed her and drowned her.
Well, you can be right by the shore.
Yep.
And it's like they can pop out.
Yeah, but she's face down in that yellow dress, and it's pushing her. She's floating, and it's pushing her, taking her somewhere.
Damn, I'm gonna take this. I'm
Yeah.
putting in his pantry for later.
Mhm.
Like I said, it's fucking horrible. Like, and
Yeah.
one ate that little boy at Disney World.
Yeah, and the parking lot.
Like in the well, kind of like outside of. I mean, the parking lot is fucking gigantic.
Yeah.
But it has like all these kind of little
It's got the park.
hills, and they have their own fucking city over there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Disney
It's a
park.
massive property.
Disney World parking lot is the size of a county.
It's very large.
Size of a small county.
They
yeah.
need to like drive you up to the park because it's like so far.
Yeah.
Well, actually, they drive you in a tram, and then you have
Yeah.
to take the monorail to the actual park.
When you drive there, because it's not far from here, but when you drive here, the
About 50 minutes drive.
yeah, the freeways start looking like Disney rides way before you get there. 20 miles out, and you're seeing
Because they own a massive.
Damn,
massive
this is
property.
pretty, yeah. And it all of a sudden it looks like
They
you're
take
in
care
an
of
amusement.
all of that.
Yeah, a lot of Orlando looks like an amusement park because
Yeah.
of Disney.
But yeah, a little kid got eaten. I don't remember how old he was, but he was
Yeah.
just playing down by the water. Well, because it was they were tourists. It's like they weren't from here, and I don't think there was any sign. Well, there is
Yeah.
now, but I don't think there was. And they were like, "Hey, they're on Disney property. Everything's
Yeah.
fine." They just let the kid go play by the water, and
Yeah, and just we
and
went to
the
Disney.
alligator just popped out.
We just went to Disney. Her mom took her and her sisters and us, and we invited us all to go down there. Had a good dinner there, fucking. And
Yeah, we had a good time.
went on a few rides, but I don't. I grew up going to Disneyland and Disney World. The rides are too tame for me, So we were going on the bullshit shit, like the Tiki Room and the.
That's
you
what my
know,
mom wanted. She remembered all of that. But
Yeah.
we broke off and went on Space Mountain.
Went on Space Mountain, and that's okay. It's still tame for me. That's their.
Well, they
rule.
are pretty tame.
But what's better is Universal Studios.
Well, yeah.
If you're going to come to Florida and you're going to go to Disney, you got to go to Universal Studios also.
I mean,
Out of the
Disney,
two, I would
Disney
go-
is cool if you
got kids.
got kids and if you want the whole experience, because
Yeah.
like you don't necessarily have to have kids because they have a million bajillion things,
Yeah.
especially if you like different restaurants and resorts, and like if you want to do like that whole immersive
Yeah.
experience, it's really good for that.
Yeah.
If you want like rides, like thrilling
And
rides
real high-tech
and
shit.
high-tech shit, yeah, you go to Universal.
Universal.
But like I would recommend going to both because it's like a different
If you want to see
experience.
hotties, you go to New Universal. They got all the fucking superhero chicks with fucking. We know girls that work there as superheroes and stuff. They dress them up, and it's more adult. It's a lot more adult.
Yeah, it's aimed for like an older demographic
Yeah.
a little bit, kind of
Yeah.
more.
And the people that go there are younger.
Although I will
Yeah.
say that they're starting to do like better rides because Disney, not at Disney World, but at Epcot. I think it's Epcot.
Yeah.
Yeah, last time I went to Disney with my siblings, you didn't go with me.
Yeah.
They took me over to Epcot, and they have a Guardians of the Galaxy coaster, and that
Yeah.
thing is fucking awesome.
Yeah, I haven't been to that.
It's really good.
yeah,
it's really fun.
We just were in the Magic Kingdom part. Went
Yeah,
to, like the
and we wanted to go on Tron because that's new, but it wasn't
closed.
working.
It was,
it wasn't working when we were there. I've been on it before.
So
Like, my
they
sister
are
took me
they are
on.
trying to up their
Yeah,
game.
and like I said, Tron is really cool too.
Yeah.
Like it's a really good like a roller
Yeah.
coaster. You get on the
Yeah.
like on the bikes on the cycles.
There is a vibe when you get there, especially with the restaurants and stuff. And the food's good.
Yeah,
It's expensive, but it's good.
not as expensive as you think, but
And there's little coupons and deals and shit that you can do.
because my sister, she loves Disney and she has like all the passes, and my brother worked at Animal Kingdom, so he gets like all this free shit and everything like that. So they go all the time, and so they know all the best places to eat. They know like all the best deals. They know like where you can go, like at what time, like to the lines to be shorter and all this other. Because nowadays you can pay for Lightning Pass, so you don't have to wait. Like, and now they have 2 lines. Like, here's the loser line that's like an
Yeah.
hour long, and then here's a line that's only like 5 minutes. You
you
know
can
what
get
I
in
mean?
the front, yeah.
But like what you do if you buy a package, you can pay. I don't remember how much it is, but you can pay like a set amount, and get lightning passes for you. Pick which rides you want lightning passes for.
Yeah.
And then you can just go on. But they have blocks of time.
Yeah.
Like you have to go on it between 2 and 4 p.m.
Yeah.
or something like that.
Yeah,
you know?
we're plugging Disney and shit. But if you're a subscriber and you're a regular and you want to come, if you're from another country, another state, and you want to come here, contact us. We can give you all the information on how to go to Disney.
Yeah, I mean,
We've been there many
I'll
times.
consult my sister because
Yeah.
she knows. She's been there 40 million times.
Yeah.
And she knows way more about
The
it than I do.
hotels and everything.
She stayed at like most of the resorts over there.
Yeah.
Because she tries to stay somewhere different every time. Not always possible.
Yeah, the
but
place
she
is
tries
huge.
to.
It used to have.
She's coming in next week, I think.
It used to have a
for
series
days.
of islands and fucking luxury liners where you could take a damn ship and go out into the ocean and shit. Remember that? I think you could even go to like the Bahamas.
Disney
from
Cruise
Disney?
Lines. I think they still have that.
I think it's closed now.
I don't.
Is it?
I thought they still had it.
Okay. All
I
right.
mean, I thought I saw an ad for it not that long ago.
Yeah.
But I'd have to look.
You can take a luxury cruise from Disney, go to these islands,
Yeah.
fuck your brains out in the fucking in the boat on the way down.
I mean, I like Disney. I like Universal. I like I don't know. I like all that stuff. I guess I grew up going to Disney, and it's just kind of like, so there's a little bit of a nostalgia factor to it too. But you know what I mean.
yeah.
Tiggly says, "Fuck that! I stay in the Midwest because of the lack of monstrous creatures." And also, when I was talking about the kid getting eaten at Disney by the alligator, said, "God, how horrifying! Did the parents see it happen?" Oh, I'm not entirely sure. I think I'm not really sure if they were like right there or.
Yeah, I think they did see it happen.
Because, like I said,
They
alligators
knew
are
immediately there was
fast.
an alligator.
The thing about it is that you can't really see them, like especially if the water's
Yeah.
kind of dark. Like really, they're just their eyes stick up,
Yeah.
and if you're like right on the shore, they'll just go pap,
Yeah,
like
that's
that,
what,
and just grab you.
That's what happened. They
If
would
you're
go
little.
to the parking lot and they were near. It was the ocean, right? Or was a lake?
No, it was one of those little lakes.
Lake. It was a pond.
Because remember how
Yeah, they're
when
big.
we drove up there
Yeah.
to the parking lot, there's
Yeah.
all those little lakes and
And they're not that
little rolling
little.
hills.
They're
and
pretty
stuff.
big.
Yeah,
And kid ran out of the parking lot and ran down to the water. Alligator got him. Pow! And the
And it just
parents
popped right out,
The parents
yeah.
saw it because they immediately tried to get the kid out of
but
the water.
they couldn't.
There's nothing they could do. It takes him out of the water and drowns him.
Yeah,
You know.
and he was just little. I mean,
Yeah, and even if you were a really good swimmer and you could see to find the alligator, the chances of you getting that kid out of that alligator's mouth, very slim.
yeah, no.
They got strong jaws.
I mean, I used to go to Alexander Springs as a kid, Ocala, and
Yeah.
you could swim around in the springs and there was fish and shit like that, but it's like every now and then, like over in the other part, there was like a lot of alligators because you
Yeah.
go canoeing and you could see them. Every now and then one would just mosey on over
Yeah.
to the spring part, so you'd be swimming and then
Yeah.
everybody said be like, alligator! So
Yeah.
everybody would like run out of the fucking...
But thankfully, from the kid's point of view, the kid was not eaten alive. The kid drowned. And probably what happened
Yeah.
is as soon as it grabbed him and pulled him in the water, he was yelling and screaming, and he inhaled some water. And as
Yeah.
soon as you inhale water, you're almost instantly
Like I
out.
said, I can't imagine
Instantly out.
anything more horrifying
So that-
than being like eaten by an animal.
It probably hit that kid so fast that kid didn't know what happened.
I would hope not.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
They're fast. They're fast when they need to be.
Elizabeth Jackson, what's the best hotel for Universal? Ooh, I don't know. I'd have to look up.
You have to
I've only
look.
been to Universal once or twice in my whole entire life.
They got them there.
Yeah, don't they have like a big? They have like a big Hard Rock one, I think.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Universal's more party, younger people, alcohol, fast fucking rides. It's sexier. They got a fucking... And it's funny when you go to, like fucking... what was the name of it? The Harry Potter ride. You can say, how sexy is that? Go fucking see it.
That was
bitch
really
is fucking-
fun.
Wow. It's really good. It's a little more of a daring place. It's more of an adult theme.
Like I said,
I'd
it's
rather
more
go there.
focused around rides,
Yeah, and the people
like
were
roller coasters,
and the
stuff.
people going to see it are hotter, if you ask
Yeah.
me. Because that time we went, we fucking, there was like hot girls, hot dudes there. You know what I mean? Younger couples and shit. It's just
Yeah, like I said, it's more like Disney's
Yeah.
more geared toward families. That's kind of their whole thing.
Yeah.
They do have a few things that it's like that's geared more toward older,
yeah,
like rides and stuff. But it's just kind of like they're mostly like a family thing. That's kind of what their deal is.
fucking Universal's aimed towards people in their 30s.
Yeah.
Yeah, 20s and 30s, 40s.
Randa says, I like Universal better than Disney. Yeah, I mean, like I said, there are 4 different things. I like the vibe at Disney, and they go all out. Like, me and my sister have gone to the Halloween party for the past couple years, and that's super fun. Like, they go all out, like, for the shit. And, my mom said she wanted to do Christmas this year. She said, I'll pay if you guys all want to go. Like,
all right.
She wants to stay over.
Her mom fucking pays. I'll go, yeah, we'll go.
I'm like, okay. I've never been there at Christmas time. My sister has, and she's like, oh my God, it's amazing. Like, they make it snow and all this stuff.
It's like their family traditions are to do Disney.
Yeah, well, like I said, my sister loves Disney. And my brother also loves Disney.
Her mom can walk, but she had an accident, so...
she was in a bad car accident.
So she rides on one of those electric scooters when she's there, and then she gets off of it.
Yeah.
So she's not the kind of person that you put her in a fucking high-end roller coaster.
Yeah, because we wanted to go on like Space Mountain.
She likes chill out shit.
And and other stuff. I think we wanted to go on, I think Thunder Mountain Railroad was down too. But we went on like well, it's not Splash Mountain anymore. It's the same ride, but they just like reskinned it with different characters.
The problem is we were there and it was hot as fuck.
Yeah, somebody said earlier that Orlando is like humid as shit. It is.
It's hot as fuck.
And look, I was born here, and I still don't like it. People say you get used to it. You know, I never did.
No,
you can't get used to it.
Kinda.
It's horrible.
I'm tolerant of it, but
horrible.
it's bad. I was out cutting limbs and shit off the tree, and I came back. I said, Jen, look at me. My whole fucking clothes was like I'd been...
He was just wet.
Dripping with sweat. But
and it doesn't evaporate like it's supposed to. It just stays there.
Yeah, it doesn't cool you.
No, you just feel like sticky and gross.
Yeah, but what was I getting at?
I don't know.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Yeah, Disney.
Talking about how hot it was.
Yeah, if you're a foreigner, you don't know anything about southern fucking heat and humidity. It's 100% humidity. 90 degrees.
I would
95.
recommend if you're going to visit Florida, and especially if you're going to go to the theme parks.
Do it in the winter.
Theme parks, it's a lot of walking around. It's a lot of standing around. There's shade, but not much. You're going to be standing in line a lot. I would recommend coming in like January.
Yeah.
Because it'll be nice and cool. It might not be cold, but it'll be nice and cool. It'll be comfortable.
Our winters.
And it won't be crowded. It'll be crowded, but not as crowded.
Our winters are probably like European summers.
Yeah.
They're 70 degrees.
Yeah, which is tolerable.
70 degrees Fahrenheit.
Now, in
cool.
January sometime, like a long time ago, me and my family went to Epcot, I think in January, February, and it was fucking freezing. It was so fucking cold. But we had the best time. We had to buy gloves and shit because we didn't bring anything.
It rarely gets...
I don't have gloves. I'm from Florida. You know what I mean?
It rarely gets cold, but it does get cold. It'll get down to freezing.
But we had the best time because like a lot of people didn't show up. So we didn't have to wait for anything.
Yeah.
Like we were freezing our tits off, but we still had a good time.
No, not those.
Because it wasn't that crowded. But like I said, I would recommend because it's off season. You know, it might depend on what you want to do because some stuff isn't going like in January, but the weather is much nicer. Don't come in like August or July. You will regret it.
If you're from Central and South America, you can handle it. If you're from fucking Europe, no. Don't put yourself through that shit.
I don't even like it, and I'm from here.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? You will just be sticky and sunburned.
If you're from England, our winter is equivalent to probably your summer. That's our winter. You've lived in Wales.
Yeah.
When you say that's about right, our winters are similar to their maybe summers.
I don't remember if I was there in the summer. Well, I was there in winter and spring.
Okay.
And it was just cold, but I liked it.
Yeah.
You know, I like cold weather.
Because it never really gets hot in Europe, I don't think. Maybe in Spain.
It does get hot in Britain for a few weeks in the summer.
But the humidity isn't there.
But it's not quite the same. But the thing about it is nobody has air conditioning either. Except for like stores and stuff too. But like most houses don't.
You can't survive here without
because you don't need it. Like here, you absolutely need it.
Absolutely.
Not only will you probably get heat stroke, but your whole entire house will mold.
Yeah.
If you don't have it.
Everything will stink. Like fucking.
And everything will smell if you have carpet. Everything will smell like wet dog, like all the time.
Yep.
As we found out when our power was out.
Power goes out.
A couple days after the hurricane, like 6 hours later, everything smelled bad.
All the fucking mold starts fucking growing because it's fucking 100% humidity and 95 degrees.
Yeah.
And the houses are not made for ventilation. They're not really made to have the windows open. They're made to fucking be central air conditioned.
Because the thing about it, even if you open the windows, like there's no wind, there's no
wind.
air.
You won't get any airflow.
So it's
And
just kind of like
power,
you can't tell the difference.
You can't put a fucking fan in the window because there's no power. So you just bake. Me and Jen would fucking fill the bathtub up full of fucking cold water and get in the bathtub every now and then. We get so miserable. Come on, let's get in the water. We get in the water like that.
Yeah.
And then get out and fucking sleep on the ground because it was too hot even sleeping on a bed because the bed was kind of like an insulating factor. It's like being on a blanket.
Yeah.
And you'd just be fucking burning up on the side that's fucking touching the bed. So we'd get on the ground. Remember that?
Yeah.
Try to get as low as possible.
Yeah. We take turns like getting in the tub because we had filled the tub up with ice water before the power went out. And so like because we knew it was going to go out and then so we would take turns getting in there for a little while
cooling
and then
off.
going back and sleeping on the floor.
Yeah.
God, it was horrible.
Like 2 days, wasn't it? I think it was like 2 days.
Might have been 2 or 3 days.
Yeah.
Like the longest I ever we had a hurricane when I lived in Daytona back in 2004. Maybe it was more recently than that. And our power was out for 8 days.
Yeah, man.
That really sucked.
Imagine the cats. I bet the cats would be so fucking pissed.
They would freak out.
They're like, where's
Thankfully,
the fucking power? Because kitties like AC too. They're like, fucking, when the power goes out, they're like, this ain't right.
Yeah, it's like, we don't like this.
Turn it on. We can't.
Yeah. It's like, sorry. She's like, fix it.
Yeah.
They're looking at us like, it's so sad.
It's too hot in here.
Yeah. We're like, I know.
And you go outside and it's no
We're
better.
covered
And
with
you go
fur.
outside and it's no better.
Yeah, it's just...
It's not better.
It's the same.
Yeah.
It's just like... Because like I said, there's no air. It's not like you go outside,
no circulation.
breeze or anything like that. It's not. It's just sits on you.
All right, go ahead and continue forward.
All right. So where was I? Okay. So obviously 3 of his girlfriends that he had at the same time. One of them was his wife, actually. But 2 of them was girlfriends. Have all mysteriously vanished. Rumors going around, but nobody seems to take them all that seriously, I guess. But then Big Minnie's family starts agitating once again in the middle of 1938. It's like, hey, to the cops, it's like, can we please find her? We haven't heard from her, and something's probably wrong. So they go to the sheriff's office, and obviously because everybody knew that Big Minnie was Joe's girlfriend and that she had worked at his bar, they went and interviewed him a bunch of times, but he pretty much told him the same story. It's like, look, man, I don't know where she is. Like, she had an interracial baby, and it's like she didn't want anybody to know, and it's like she took off, and I don't know where she went, and I don't know what happened. So because they couldn't find any evidence that he had done anything to her, they pretty much, their hands were tied. You know what I mean? So then, a little while after this, another family goes to the cops and reports another missing person. And this woman was a 23-year-old young woman named Julia Turner. And she had also worked at the bar part-time. And they had not seen nor heard from her. So they go out to the Sociable Inn again and ask Joe whatever happened to Julia. Like, she worked here and now she's gone. The story he tells is that, she was having all these problems with her roommate, and so she just wanted to move away. So last I heard, she just moved away. I don't know what happened to her. I don't know what to tell you. So again, no evidence that there's any wrongdoing. She's just missing. This was the last place she was seen. He says, I don't know, man. She just took off. Now, they did search her house. Like, she lived with a roommate. They searched her house, and they found that Joe's story, not very likely, because she hadn't taken any of her stuff. All her stuff was still there. So you would think that if she was just kind of like, hey, I'm having some problems with my roommate, I'm just going to move out, you'd think she would take in her clothes and her shit with her. But she did not. So they go back to the bar again and question Joe again. And this time, Joe says, oh, yeah, you know what? I just remembered that she was super, super desperate, and I loaned her $500 to get out of town, but I don't know where she went. She said she was going home, and if she didn't go there, I don't know what happened, right? But it's obviously, it seemed like she didn't go anywhere of her own volition because all her shit was still there, right? Now, over the following months, 2 more of Joe's employees vanished. No one knows what their names were or what their ages were. It's like the records have been lost. So they keep bringing Joe in for questioning because they know he's got to know something. I mean, like, obviously, you know, if one of your employees disappears and they just took off, it's like, that's one thing. But this is a bunch of people, right? It's a little sus. So they keep questioning him, but he just still says, look, I don't know anything. You know, they just leave town. It's like, that's just how people do. You know what I mean? So again, they don't have any solid evidence. They can't keep him, right? So they don't really know what else to do. Now, here's where shit starts to go sideways for Joe, though. In September of 1938, late September, a neighbor of Joe's, who had used to live near the bar, he comes forward and he says to the police, I personally saw Joe cutting meat off of a person's body and feeding the pieces to the alligators. And then this other guy comes forward and he says, you know, Joe used to have this barrel that he left behind my sister's barn and it smelled really bad, like there was something dead in there. So the cops that he went and told this to, like, go out to the sister's barn to see what that was about. However, the barrel was gone, so it had been moved in the meantime. And the sister backed the story up, said, yeah, he came here and, like, put this barrel here and it stunk really bad. You know what I mean? Like someone died in there. So they go back to see Joe once again. So these 2 detectives go in there. And they said, look, there's all this fucking... It's just circumstantial evidence at this point, because all these people are saying this kind of crap that they've seen you do. And it's like, we want to take you to San Antonio, which is the nearest big city, to question you. And Joe said, okay. And then he said, well, can I close the tavern first? And the deputies said that was okay. And they sat at the bar waiting for him to do that. They said that he took a beer and chugged it. Then he walked over to the cash register and very specifically pushed the no sale button. And then when the drawer of the cash register popped open, he reached in there and pulled out a .45 and waved it at the cops at first. And they said, don't shoot us. And then he pointed it at his own heart and pulled the trigger.
Killed himself.
He shot himself in the heart. Later reports say he shot himself in the head. That is apparently not accurate. He shot himself in the heart. Just one shot, and he just fell dead to the ground. So, obviously, because they were going to take him in, I don't know if they were, like, technically, like, arresting him, but they were really like, man, there's, like, all this fucking suspicious shit about you, and it's like, we want to take you to San Antonio to question you further. And I guess he was scared of that, so he decided he was going to take himself out. So they said, well, he must have something to hide then. So they start searching through all of the bar. Now, they found a bunch of rotting meat around the gator pond. They also found an axe that had, like, blood and hair matted on it. Whether that was human blood or hair, I don't think they were ever able to determine. But because of all of this, obviously the first thing they'd think, it's like, well, he must have killed these people that are missing and fed them to the alligators, which means we'll probably never find their bodies, right? So yeah, and at this point they're like, man, it's like all these people have gone missing, like not only his wife and 2 of his girlfriends, but also a couple of the people that work for him. And then there was this teenage boy that used to hang out at the bar that also mysteriously went missing. They never figure out what happened to him. And it's like, maybe he's just killing all these people because they pissed him off and he fed them to the alligators and we'll never find them. So so at this point, remember how I said earlier that Joe had this handyman that worked for him named Clifton Wheeler, and he still worked for him like all this time later. And well, actually I don't know if he did, but he worked for him for a long time, and the cops knew about him And they knew, it's like, well, shit, man, if Joe did any of this stuff, like, that dude probably knows some shit. So they went and talked to him. Like, they picked him up and they took him back to San Antonio to question him. Now, at first, Clifton is like, man, I don't know nothing. Like, you know, I'm completely innocent. I don't know anything. But the more they kind of, like, pushed at him and stuff, you know how they do. Like, they'll interrogate you for hours and hours and, like, try to get you to say stuff. And then finally, like, after a few hours, he finally broke down and said, yeah, I do actually know some stuff. And this is what he told them. He said, Hazel Brown, Shotzi. That wasn't Shotzi. Yeah, that was Shotzi. She was the third girlfriend. Clifton said that Shotzi had fallen in love with another dude and was going to move away with him. And according to Clifton, that fact added to the fact that Shotzi knew that, because remember how I said that Joe had told her that he had killed Big Minnie?
Yeah.
And I guess, like, he got mad at her when she said, hey, I'm leaving you for another man, and he apparently got pissed off at her, and she said, hey, I'm going to tell the cops what you told me about you killing Big Minnie. And so he decided he was going to kill her as well. So he did. This is what the handyman is saying. And so the cops are like, okay, well, if he really did kill Shotzi, like, where is she? And Clifton says, I'll show you. So the day after that, Clifton takes them out to this kind of isolated area. Like, it was about 3 miles outside of town. And he starts digging in the dirt. And they said after a couple of minutes, this horrible smell started, like, emanating from... They said it was so bad that, like, everybody around them, like, all the cops and stuff, like, started barfing and whatnot. They said it smelled, like, really, really bad. And Clifton digs around and eventually pulls up a bunch of, dismembered limbs.
Damn.
Got some legs, got some arms, got a torso.
Got a wing, got a breast.
Got a wing, got a breast. Yeah, got some
You
giblets.
remember that was from?
Yeah. You know what I mean?
From Goodfellas.
Yeah. So they're digging up all this stuff. And so the cops are like, well, where's the head? And Clifton points over to this, like, little burn spot. Apparently there'd been a campfire over there. And he's like, it's over there. So they went over and dug around in the remains of this campfire. And they found some skull pieces and a jawbone and some teeth, which was evidently all belonging to Hazel Shotzi Brown. Now, what Clifton said happened, he didn't see the murder happen, Clifton says. He knew that they'd had an argument, and he knew what the argument was about, and he knew that Joe had killed her, but I don't think he saw it happen. What happened was that he's like, Joe was drinking, and he was really drunk. I think Clifton might have been a little bit drunk, too. And then Joe said, get some blankets and stuff. And then they got in Joe's car, and he said that he put this big 55-gallon barrel from Joe's sister's barn, which is the barrel that the guy was talking about, the neighbor was talking about earlier. And they drove down to the San Antonio River. And then Clifton said, Joe told me, go dig a grave. And then they opened the barrel up, and then he said, I saw Hazel Brown's body in there, but it was intact at that time. So he said, Clifton was like, fuck no, I am not, I didn't sign up for this. So Joe starts trying to cut up the body, like, by the side of the river. But he was so fucking drunk that he couldn't do it. And so he kind of, like, forced Clifton, I assume at gunpoint, to, like, hey, hold her arm down while I saw it off, kind of thing. And he said that it smelled so bad that it's like they had to stop every now and then. They had to, like, drink more so it wouldn't, like, bother them. I don't think she'd been dead that long. I'm not sure, like, how long it was. Because she had started to stink because neighbors had complained about it, like the barrel.
Yeah.
So I don't know how long she'd been in there. But she apparently was still...
at least a couple days. Well, it was hot.
Yeah, it's Texas.
So, yeah.
So it's like, so I don't know... He was still having a hard time cutting her up, but he was, like, super inebriated also.
Yeah.
So it's like, because you think after a little while, like,
What was he
it'd be easier.
using? A saw?
I guess. I think it was a saw. Like a handsaw. It looked like. Because I think I saw a picture of one of the investigators, and he was holding up a saw and something else. So it's like, I assumed that was what was used for it. But I'm not entirely sure.
Which you can use, people. But you're stupid.
In case you ever get in that situation where you have to dismember a body.
As a kid, I could take a little 3-inch curved fucking skinning blade. It was called a fucking old timer. My dad gave it to me. I could take that and field dress an entire deer. You could field dress it, get all the guts out of it, the heart, make it lighter to carry it, and then get it home, fucking hang it up on a tree in the backyard, and reduce that whole thing into little cutlets and fillets and the head and the rib cage and the shit that you're not going to eat. You can do all that with a little tiny blade and not really get any blood anywhere. It's not a macabre scene. It's food processing. I don't know why these fucking amateurs and shit come up with these weird fucking ideas. I need a chainsaw. You're just going to fucking blow shit everywhere.
You're just going to make a big mess.
Oh, you can use a bone saw. Okay.
Well, I mean, that's what that's for.
You could use a metal saw, a metal hacksaw, probably, to go through there. A metal cutting hacksaw because it's real fine teeth. That'd probably work. But why not just a very sharp little 3-inch blade? You don't need some big fucking. The cavemen, the Neanderthal, all the fucking Cro-Magnon and shit. They're fucking They were hunting mammoth, and all they had was obsidian and fucking flint blades that were maybe, like a handheld axe type thing. Some of that shit was just little obsidian flakes. They were really only a couple inches long, and they'd take that whole fucking elephant-sized creature and make it into something that you could actually eat.
And they were doing that with like some little fucking
just little pieces of fucking rocks. It'd be like you taking a razor blade and doing it. And it's just because there's a process. You're processing meat. There's a skill to it. And take your time. I don't know where these fucking killers, these fucking crazy-ass murderers come up with these real macabre ways of dealing with a body. I guess because they're freaked out, so they're going to try some kind of freaky...
Or they're just dumb.
They're dumb. Well, it is dumb. What they're doing, they think is freaky, so they can have some freaky solution. No, a very sharp little knife.
Well,
slightly curved, pointed.
Here's what I'd like to know. So, he kills Shotzi. He puts her in the barrel, and she's in there for a couple of days, I'm assuming. Long enough to start smelling, so the neighbors noticed it. And then he gets his handyman, he puts this barrel, which I'm assuming was quite heavy, in the car, drives it 3 miles, dumps the body out onto the riverbank, and starts to cut it up. I mean, in his defense, I guess, he was very, very drunk. So maybe things that seem like a good idea when you're drunk, maybe not so much when you're sober. And he cuts her up, and then he buries the torso and the legs and the arms just in a shallow grave. And then he takes her head and throws it on their campfire. Here's what I'm wondering. You have 5 alligators.
Yeah.
Why did you not just dump it in the alligator pit? Why just bury it? Or the whole body?
The whole body? Maybe he thought it would float up in little pieces, and it might have been the next day might have been a business day, and there would have been people there. So he was trying to hide.
Because I don't know. I kind of get the impression.
Maybe he knew that alligators prefer things rotted too.
Maybe.
Maybe
he was. I don't know.
Because they like things that are rotten because they're softer.
Because I don't think. I mean, I'm not sure. I wasn't there, but just from the implications around this situation, I don't think when he went into the interaction with her that he intended to murder her. I'm not saying it's good. I'm just saying I don't think it was premeditated. Maybe it was, but the thing about it was that he had 3 women going, and he'd already killed one of them, and then, which we'll get to in a second. But then this was the 3rd one. The 2nd one he married, and spoiler alert, she lived. She did disappear, but they found her.
Is that the one with the missing arm?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So
yeah,
she lived.
She lived.
Okay.
She did disappear, so they thought she was dead for a while, but they would find her later. But the other 2 girlfriends, he definitely killed, because they found both of them. Because this is the 3rd one here, Hazel, Shotzi. Yeah, so I don't really know. Maybe he thought that he would get caught, or it would be too obvious, or something like that. I'm not really sure. And I don't think that when he went into the interaction, I don't think he intended to kill her. I think they just got in an argument and he shot her, and then was just kind of like, he got drunk and he's like, oh shit, now what do I do? Maybe, I don't know. Maybe he did intend to kill her. I'm not sure. But so yeah, so they threw the head on the campfire. So they did actually find like her jawbone and teeth and stuff like that. So after that, the cops were like, holy shit. And then they asked him, well, what about Big Minnie, like his first girlfriend who he'd been with for like 3 years or whatever. And he said, oh yeah, I know what happened there too. He said what he did was he took her out to Ingleside, which is like, I think it's on the coast, like by Corpus Christi. And they went out to like a beach or something, and he made her, I don't know if he made her or if he asked her to take her clothes off for some reason. And then they were all drinking. And then he basically did a thing where he was like, hey, look at that thing over there. And then he shot her in the head, like while she was distracted. And Clifton, the handyman, he said that Joe had shot her because she was pregnant, not with a black man, with his baby. And he didn't want it because he had 2 younger girlfriends going at the same time. So he wanted to get rid of the old hag, I guess.
He didn't want to get tied down.
Yeah, that's definitely what it was. At least according to the handyman anyway. He said, yeah, she was pregnant with his baby. He told everyone...
So his pregnancy with her gave him the idea of the baby story.
Yeah, I think that's what it was. So he told everybody, oh, she had a black baby, so she had to leave. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because I thought that was kind of a spicy story. Like, you know, fucking, how did he come up with that?
Yeah.
That's how. She was pregnant,
but with his kid.
With his kid, yeah.
And like I said, he had 2 much younger girlfriends going at the same time, and he's, like I said, he didn't want the old battle axe, like, getting in the way, I guess. So of the younger models.
Trading up to the younger models.
So yeah. So he's like, and she's got a bun in the oven, so we're just going to take care of all of these problems.
She was too big.
At one, with one stroke, I guess. So he just very cold-bloodedly like shot her in the head. And then him and the handyman buried her, and just left her out there.
Here's the thing: these motherfuckers always thinking that they're Romeos and shit, and that they have to choose one of them. Dude like this in that era with what was going on, he could have just probably run them all. He could have had a harem.
I mean, he was.
A lot of them did that.
Yeah,
a lot of them did that. You know, and the one that has your kid is the one that you've tied down. You don't really need to worry about her anymore. She needs you for support, for the baby. So now you're free to do whatever you want as long as her and her kids taken care of. Growing up in Mississippi, a lot of my dad's friends, that's actually how they ran it. They had the wife and the kids, and then they had a girlfriend.
Not great for the women, but, you know.
They didn't really care because they were kind of sick of the dude by that time. They didn't believe in divorce, but they were kind of divorced in a way. But then when the fucking late 80s rolled around, divorce became more acceptable. So they divorced the old wives and married the girlfriends. The girlfriend was the second wives. And that was a trend. All my dad's friends, pretty much all my dad's friends did that. I knew about it before it happened, because even though I was a boy, because I was in the manosphere, I knew what was going on. I just kept my mouth shut.
Well, I feel like, I mean, it's probably still common nowadays, but I think it was a lot more common in that generation.
Yeah, that generation was a lot more common. And all this fucking fishing camps and hunting camps and shit that they made, that was the love nest where they'd meet up with the fucking girlfriends. They'd all chip in to buy them. You know, they'd buy property near the lake. They hunted from there, but they also took all their girlfriends out there for getaways.
Yeah.
Because it was cheaper than, once it was built, it was cheaper than hotel rooms. We used to go down there and go fishing and shit, and look in there, and it'd be a whole fucking pad. I was like,
bachelor pad.
Damn.
Wait, you got mirrors on the ceiling?
Yeah, it was like that kind of shit. It was like, damn.
Fondue pot.
Yeah, and that was fucking...
A little round couch, like, down in the conversation pit.
Yeah, and that was like mid-80s. They still
lava lamp.
Shag carpet, and fucking carpet going up the ceiling. This is quite a fucking fishing camp. It was a fucking badass pad is what it was. It was a love nest. Yeah, it had all kinds of shit to process fish and shit, but that's not... It was dual purpose. It looked like a fucking resort hotel.
Like one of those cheesy love hotels.
Like a cheesy love hotel. That's
Poconos.
exactly what it looked like. It's exactly what
like that one that Dan Bell found.
Yeah, it had a living room with a fireplace inside. You know, this old fat fireplace was like a cone on the top of it with a smokestack they would go through. It'd be like all fucking like brown and avocado colored, almost the 70s colors. They were still doing 70 colors in the fucking mid-80s. It was like that. It was like a big love nest in there. You know, and there'd be bunk beds. because they would sometimes, 3 or 4 dudes in there spend the night. But you're like, then there's like a master bedroom.
Yeah.
With like a king size bed and shit. You know what I mean? Fucking. It was all deluxe.
Dude, man.
Yeah, that's because that's where they would take their girlfriends.
Sorry, it's funny. I was just thinking it because you were talking about Eddie Murphy the other day.
Yeah.
And I was thinking of like one part of his stand up. It might have been from Raw, I can't remember. But where he was telling the whole audience that it's like, if your man isn't with you right now, he's fucking somebody.
Yeah.
And how like they can't help themselves.
Well, the older generations were kind of like that.
They were. And then they get old and want to lecture everybody else about morality.
Yeah, morality.
Which I'm just like, shut the fuck up.
That happened with the boomer generation.
You guys are way worse.
Yeah.
Like, they did all kind of fucking shit.
They did all kinds of shit back then.
Those were the kind of people who would have laughed at somebody throwing kittens to get eaten by alligators, okay?
Yeah.
So it's like, don't lecture me about fucking morality, bro.
Yeah. And, like you're saying, Jen fucking defends the wives and shit. The wives knew.
Oh, I'm sure they did. I mean, well, there's not a lot you could do about it either. It's
they didn't care.
Yeah, maybe
as long
not.
as it wasn't in their face, they really didn't care. As long as everything was being paid for and they were being fucking kept in a nice place and the fucking children were taken care of and they were having fun. They were sick of fucking that dude anyway. And the way they married.
I hope they found like a younger, hotter boyfriend.
No, a lot of times after the kids, they kind of got fat. You know what I mean? So it was. They were kind of like off the market. They didn't seem to care. They just hung out with other girls, other women. And it was just like, kind of like an understood thing with that generation. And they married real young.
They did, yes. So they didn't really go out in the world and have a lot of experience before
they married real young.
Settled down,
and they just didn't really care. Now, after the divorces, they had boyfriends.
Well, yeah. Because you're just like, woohoo!
Yeah. Yeah, the ones that got divorced, I can know their names and know their faces. Okay, one of them was Peggy Key. Remember the house that they did for that show? Yeah, she got a boyfriend after that.
Yeah.
But she had several boyfriends that didn't work out because she was in her 40s and kind of overweight by that time. So her boyfriends were all in their 50s. They were kind of overweight and they were on their second marriage. And a lot of those dudes are kind of philandering. They don't really want to get married. They already did that. You know what I mean? Then she ended up dying of cancer.
Yeah.
So that's just the way life went for them. But no, they did not care. They didn't care. They were kind of sick of their husbands.
I'd be sick of them too if they were doing that crap all the time.
No, they were sick of it before it happened. They were not really romantic relationships as you know.
No, I
them.
know. That's what I mean.
They just weren't. It was more like business. They didn't care.
Like I said, people got married way too young.
They got married young back then, and they got married just to get out of the house. Poverty was involved.
Yeah, they needed somebody to take care of them. Like, they didn't really have a lot of options.
Exactly. But they were happy. They were happy. They didn't care. They were like, oh, he's got a girlfriend now. Good, I don't have to fuck him. That's exactly the attitude. That was the attitude. He was no catch either.
Well, yeah, they usually aren't.
Yeah.
They
were just kind of like a source of stability because they made money.
I reckon so. Like I said, I just.
No, they're sick of them by the time all that happens.
Really, that whole fucking.
Yeah.
That's just so fucked up.
Yeah, the way that relationship, way it was back then.
That's so fucked up. It's so,
they'd have a couple
unhealthy.
kids, and then they'd have a couple kids, and with them, and then by the time they were in their 30s, they were sick of that dude. Just as long as he was paying the bills.
Like I said, it's kind of they married too young. It's a lot.
They did not marry for the reasons that you got married to me.
Yeah,
it's not the same reason.
No, I know it's not. Which, like I said, is kind of sad. But like I said, it's just kind of what you did.
It made a lot of people, though.
It's what you did back then.
It's what you did back then. It was just a ritual they went through.
Yeah. Whether they wanted to or not, I guess.
Whether they wanted to, there weren't any other options. That was the best option.
Which, like I said, that's kind of sad.
That they were prevented.
Kind of sad.
This was all happening at a time when, by today's standards, the United States would have been a third world country by today's standards.
Precious says, may lose connection. Thanks for the show. We have tornadoes. Oh, shit.
Yeah, another thing I wanted to mention. I just got a notification.
Okay.
We're going to lose internet at midnight to 6 o'clock in the morning for maintenance.
That's okay.
Yeah, the
I'll be
Black Bear sent me a message.
They got it. Okay. Well, that's okay. I mean, as long as it's back on by
6.
Yeah, by 7 or 8 when I have to get to work.
Yeah.
but we don't usually. And we're gonna watch some stuff after the show, but like we usually go to sleep.
We're gonna lose it at midnight though.
Because but we don't usually stay up that late anyway. Because like I said, I gotta get up early to work tomorrow. All right, but we're almost done.
We're almost done. Okay.
So Clifton said, yeah, he shot her, and we buried her in the sand. And so he showed the police where it was. So it took them a while to find her. They dug around for a little while, and they had like the little fucking, what do they call that thing where they scoop all the sand out with the thing they drive around?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Scooping all the things with the things that they
yeah,
drive
you know
over.
what I mean? The little thing you drive, like the little earth mover thing.
I don't know what you're talking about. Steam shovel? Bulldozer?
Yeah, kind of. Not a bulldozer, but like that.
Okay.
So finally, in October of 1938, they did find Big Minnie. Her remains were partially decomposed. She was buried in the sand, just like Clifton had said. And so they started asking Clifton about, well, what about all these other missing women, like Julia Turner and like all these other women that worked here that, we don't know where they are now. But Clifton said, well, I don't know anything about that. But I do know about these two, and he led him to the bodies, so obviously he was telling the truth. But he's like, I don't know about the other ones. Now, so when they had searched Joe's barn, they actually found this scrapbook that had pictures of a bunch of different women in it. And the cops were like really suspicious of this because like, well, what happened to all these women? Is this the women he killed, or why is he keeping the scrapbook or whatever? And so they thought that it might like lead to something, but they couldn't really link any of the photos to like any of the missing people or anything like that. So nobody really knows what that was about. Now, as I mentioned earlier, Dolores, Buddy, his wife, had also disappeared. However, they did track her down later on. She lived. She was still alive. She had moved out to California. And she said, basically, she's like, I really didn't want to end up like those other two. So I took the fuck off. So she moved to San Diego and started a new life. But they did find her later. She was fine. She was the one-armed woman. And then, a couple weeks after that, in Phoenix, they did find another one of the women who had been missing. So she had actually just kind of gone through the area. So she wasn't killed. But a bunch of the other people, they never did find out what happened to them. Now, as I mentioned, they tested, as far as they could in the late 1930s, some of the rotting meat that they found around the alligator pond. And evidently, none of this was human. But like I said, in 1938, could they really tell that? I'm not entirely sure.
They must have found little bones or something. They go, that's chicken bones and animal bones. Maybe
I don't really know. Because they said it literally said they found a bunch of rotting meat. Like, so flesh. Like, in and around the alligator pond. And they said, well, we were never able to prove that was human meat.
Yeah.
But like I said, in 1938, I'm not really sure if they could tell if that was human or animal meat. Because he did feed animals to it. Everybody saw it. Not really sure. So they interviewed Dolores, his wife. And she said that Joe had never put any people in the alligator tank. And said he would never do anything like that. And that he wasn't a monster. And that he was a quote-unquote sweet, kind, good man. And she said, he never hurt nobody unless he was driven to it. There were just 2 murders. Just 2.
Yeah. So
those 2 women that he killed. That's what she said. She said, oh, he just killed those 2 women. And I guess because she loved him, she said, oh, well, they must have driven them. Like, they had it coming. Like, I guess that's what she was saying.
That's what she's saying. Yeah.
Like, that was okay because they had it coming.
They did some shit.
Because one of them got pregnant, and then the other one was going to leave him for another man.
That's probably not what he told her.
Maybe not.
That's probably not what he told her.
I don't know.
He probably gave another reason for doing it.
Yeah, I kind of have a feeling that...
Yeah, he's not going to tell her because she was pregnant.
Yeah.
He told her something else.
I think so.
Yeah, she was stealing my money, or she was trying to, she was blackmailing me, something like that.
Yeah, I'm sure he probably came up with some excuse like why it was justifiable.
Right.
Because Dolores did know that he had killed the other 2 girlfriends.
Yeah.
That was his wife. He did marry Dolores.
Yeah.
But and like I said, I find it hard to imagine that the 3 of them didn't know about each other because they all worked in the same place. And like I said, if you've seen photos of this place, it's a tiny, like, it's a shack. Like, they must have known what was going on.
I'm sure they knew, yeah.
They must have known what was going on.
Well, they were kind of vying for him in a way.
And if you've seen him, it's like, I always kind of wonder about that. You always see these kind of dudes, and
Yeah.
like, you remember how, like, back in the day, like, you used to watch those fucking trashy ass, like, daytime TV, like Jerry Springer or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's like, you'd see, and I know a lot of that was fake, but you'd see this dude, and he's like, I'm juggling 3 women, and it's like, he just looks like shit on toast, and you're just like, what the? How did he even find 1 woman, let alone 3?
Well,
but like I said, I think those were mostly actors.
What's happening in the what's happening in your local scene has a lot to do with it. You know, there was no social media, wasn't even any television at this time, so they only know what they saw. There probably weren't that many available men, and the ones that weren't available were bums. This is 30 Depressions era.
Yeah.
So he had a business and what they considered to be a solid, stable income. So he was a catch.
Yeah, I mean, he did have money.
Yeah, so
and he did come from like a fairly wealthy family.
Yeah, so
I don't know how much his family fucked with him, but
the
he
bar
did
to
come from
entry into fucking manhood and fucking playboyism was low in those
that.
areas.
Yeah, you could be ugly as shit.
You could be ugly as fuck, but if you had a job, oh man,
and beat the crap out of you.
Yeah.
So like, well, like that whole
Yeah.
thing with the bottle.
Yeah.
Oh, he didn't mean to hit me with it, but he was throwing it at somebody else. I'm like, I'm sorry, I don't believe that. Left a big scar, like on our permanent scar.
It
like, on her
happens
face.
today. That Shannon, that friend of mine that I fucking got online with, right? She's goth, and I think she's kind of cute. And her boyfriend is mundane and overweight as hell because she says all the dudes in her area in the goth clubs are fucking pieces of shit. They're all on coke and they're all fucking in debt. They don't want to work for a living and shit like that. So she's with a dude that is like, physically, you look at the dude and you're going like, eh. And she's like, yeah, but he's a good man. He's got a job. Fucking, and he's, and he's stable, They still do it.
Well, like,
what's funny is that she looks like the main character out of an anime or something. You look at him and he's damn near invisible next to her. You know what I mean?
But like I said, a lot of women will overlook physical stuff.
Yeah.
If the dude is not a piece of shit, if he's not a bum, if he doesn't sponge off of her.
Yeah.
Shit like that. Because sadly, like, there's not a lot. It's pretty slim pickings.
You answer your own question.
Well, no, that's what I'm saying.
Happened here.
So I guess that's what happened here. It's like, because like I said, to look at, he doesn't really look like any fucking anything. So the fact that he'd have like 3 women, 2 of them in their 20s, who are actually pretty good looking, vying over him and falling in love with him so much that they would overlook 2 murders.
Yeah.
That seems pretty crazy.
Yeah.
But, like I said, this is a very small town in Texas.
Yeah.
I'm sure the fucking standards were different. So, you know what I mean? Yeah. But I don't know. It's just
and to give you a good fucking example of on the other side, Shannon showed me photographs of her exes, and they were cute goth guys. And then she goes, and this one was fucking so addicted to cocaine that he was non-functional and would steal money. This one fucking, and he borrowed money from all my friends, and then he'd fuck other chicks. So, you know what I mean? Fucking, what good is he? Yeah, he looks good. He did
slim pickings.
Yeah, this one here fucking, and then it showed the other one. This one here refused to get a job. He thought he was too good to work. He just wanted to mooch off you. So, there's a lot of women have to put up with that. A lot of the good-looking guys in the goth scene up in Boston are leeches. Yeah.
I mean, well, it's just kind of like
they think they're divas.
Good-looking people, men or women, get away with a lot.
They get away with shit, yeah.
And so if they get away with a lot for a long time, then they just think they can.
They just think that's how it is, yeah.
And it's like, what? I have to actually like make an effort,
yeah,
and like work for shit. No, I'm not doing that. I just want everything given to me because I'm pretty.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
I've known men like that, and I've known women like that.
Yeah.
So that's not a gender thing.
So Shannon hooked up with a fucking chubby dude who's older than her, but he's got a job.
Yeah, and Tammy said he probably treats her well.
Treats her well.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
And fucking
and really, that's all you want.
Yeah.
You just want somebody. I mean, it's a low bar. You want somebody that doesn't treat you like shit. Somebody that contributes, that pulls their weight. That's like your equal.
Yeah.
They're not gonna fuck with you about stuff. You know what I mean? It's just like like I said, you want a partner. You want somebody that's gonna make your life better, not harder.
That's why I'm telling all these dudes in the fucking manosphere, listen to your shit. Yeah, there is some truth to that. But you don't understand. You can be fucked up looking and get a fucking pretty good, nice woman. If you got a job and you're nice to her. You know what I mean? And you're fucking, Yeah, sometimes nice guys finish last. The bad boy routine does work. I played that my whole life. But I had to back this shit up.
Point. It works up to a point.
It works only up to the point. Okay. I never mistreated her. I always did shit. I always helped. I'm fucking doing the cooking and all the fucking shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's not. So even
Well,
bad
like
boy
I said,
has limits.
It works out good for us because, you know,
we do the shit that other ones won't do. We kind of.
Yeah.
What she doesn't do, I do. What she does, I don't do it.
Yeah.
It's like that.
Like
Kind of a
I still work. He's retired, so it's just like
I still make money.
Yeah, I mean, you still make money, but you're retired, so you know, you kind of do shit around the house, you cook and stuff like that. And
Thinking about getting a side job though, my credit card debt starting to creep up.
Yeah, I know that.
I need to pay that shit down. Yeah.
Well, like I said,
there's that car that did it, putting that money in the car.
You talked
buying
about
clothes.
well, you talked about training people at the gym, like, you know, I don't know, like, it might be because, you know, we have friends that want to do it, but we live kind of far.
Yeah, and they're not consistent.
Away.
I'll pick up a student that wants to. I got a great gym right here in the house. I'll pick up these female students that want to do some shit, but they'll only come over like once.
Yeah, because we live like, you know, almost an hour away. Well,
yeah, we live too far away from it.
We live kind of far away.
Right.
So it's kind of a pain. I get it, but it's just kind of like.
Yeah.
You know, but that would be a kind of because you would enjoy that, I think.
Yeah.
Like if
I'd just go down to the gym and go fucking see y'all need an instructor.
Yeah, you should.
Yeah.
You should probably do that. I mean, you could put it out there.
Yeah.
Like, there might be people
around here. We got some
over
here.
Yeah, there might be people around here, but, like, so, yeah. So, I don't know. I just thought that was kind of fucking sad. That she said that he didn't hurt nobody and stuff like that. Yeah. It's like, I'm not sure I entirely believe that. And honestly, even the cops at the time were like, well, even if this isn't human meat, all of these people are still missing and we don't know where they are, and it's entirely possible that he could have just fed them to the alligators and we don't know.
Or at least some of them.
Yeah, like, you know what I mean? Because as far as I know, they didn't find some of those other people. So Clifton Wheeler, the handyman, he actually in 1939 pled guilty to helping dispose of the bodies. Like, he didn't do the murders, obviously, but he was, you know, that's accessory after the fact or whatever the fuck they call that. He only got 2 years in prison, though, I guess, because he cooperated with the police. The funny thing is that after he got released, he decided he was going to open his own bar, but because of his association with Joe Ball and that whole feeding people to alligators thing, everyone kind of was like, no thanks. Like, they didn't really want to go there. So he probably, like, newspaper people were, like, always crawling up his ass and, like, nobody wanted to go to his fucking bar, so he ended up not being super successful. He had to, like, move away in the end because he just kept getting hounded. The 5 alligators, if you're an animal lover, you will be happy to know they were not destroyed, because I was kind of afraid that would happen, because they couldn't help it, you know what I mean? They're just animals. They didn't know what was going on. They were rounded up and they were taken to the San Antonio Zoo and lived out their natural lives. So that's good, because a lot of times, honestly, even nowadays, if you call animal control, if an alligator hurts somebody or something like that, they usually will kill them, which is kind of fucked up. I mean, I get it, but it's kind of fucked up. But they didn't destroy the alligators. They put them in the zoo and they lived their little lives out. So, point of the thing is, we don't know. Joe Ball, I suspect, probably a serial killer. They know for sure he killed 2 of his girlfriends, right? Several people, as many as 12 people that worked for him or were associated with him, went missing, and as far as I know, were never found. And considering how much of a temper that he had, as in, you know, I'm just gonna get mad and shoot you in the face, because he, like, threatened a couple of people, like, reportedly. So I would imagine that it was a lot more than 2. Like, just because his handyman just knew about those 2 because he got kind of shanghaied into helping him hide the bodies, I don't think that means that he didn't kill more people. Because I find it hard to believe that he just killed
but I don't
people.
think all those people that went missing fucking were killed.
Well, not necessarily. Like I said, they found his wife and they found one other person that was missing.
It was hard to track people back then.
It was.
Especially if they left and went out of state. There was no internet, no computer connectivity. Everything was paperwork and local. It was just hard to find somebody.
It was, yeah.
So I think they just probably moved on, most of them.
Maybe.
Chances are he probably only killed another 2 or 3.
I mean, that's still a
That's
lot.
probably more likely.
That's still a lot.
He doesn't really sound like what I would consider to be a serial killer. This doesn't sound like sexual motives where he's getting gratification out of the murders. Sexual gratification.
He
It just sounds more kind of like a what do you call it? An opportunity.
He sounds like
kill.
an impulse
killer.
because he seems like he has he's hot tempered.
Yeah, hot
And it from everything I read, it sounded like he drank a lot.
yeah.
And I think what would happen is that he would get in an argument, he'd be
glitch
drunk,
out.
and he'd
Yeah.
glitch out and just
Yeah.
shoot people.
And then he'd have to cover
Like
it
if
up.
they made him mad, and they'd be like, "Oh shit!" Now I
Yeah.
gotta like cut the body up. or
Probably
whatever.
more likely something like that.
But the fact that he cut Shotzi's body up
yeah.
like that, Minnie, he just shot her in the head and buried her intact, as far as I know. But Shotzi, he kept her in a barrel for however long, and then very deliberately, drunkenly, cut her apart,
Yeah.
and then buried her, and then burned her head.
Yeah.
So to me, that seems like that's like beyond the pale. That to me is
well, I don't know.
indicative of somebody that would do something.
But I don't know the thinking. Maybe he was cutting her apart because he had planned on feeding her to the alligators. Then he changed his
And
mind.
he changed his mind. Yeah,
And he's like, well, that won't work because they're gonna
They'll
bones.
find it,
They'll
yeah.
find these bones.
maybe he thought he'd get busted. Yeah,
So he's like, I'm just gonna bury it, and maybe he thought he could burn a head down to nothing, so it couldn't be
No.
identified. And he's like, well, if they don't identify the head, then they'll never know who that body is. If they ever dig it up, they'll think that's some ancient Indian burial. You know, this motherfucker's dumb.
Yeah.
Most likely, he's dumb. But
not a master criminal.
No.
Clearly.
No, the cooking the head throwing the head into the fire is probably an amateurish way of trying to hide the identity of who it is.
And like I said,
And he's drunk.
Yeah,
too.
according to Clifton, he was very, very drunk.
And he was drunk, right?
So I'm sure he wasn't really
He
like
wouldn't have been
thinking with
thinking
all
that
his
much.
faculties.
Right.
Obviously. So I don't know. Like I said, they know for sure he killed 2, but I kind of suspect he probably killed more than that. 12 to 14, I'm not sure. You know, like you said, they did find a couple of the people that were missing like later on, then they had moved to another town, and maybe that happened with some of his other employees, but it does seem like a little coincidental that so many of his employees went missing. So I'm willing to believe that he probably killed more than just those 2.
Yeah.
Just because Clifton didn't know about it.
Yeah.
And he probably did feed some of them to the
He
alligators.
doesn't have the profile, though, of somebody who had killed, say, like 10 more. It wasn't that, because, no. He would have stronger motives. They would have been sexual motives, and the murders that we do know about wouldn't have looked like that. He was an impulse killer.
Yeah, it seemed like. Like I
And I
said,
think-
when he got mad,
Yeah,
like
and-
he would just shoot you and then
And
be like, oh shit, now I
and
gotta
I
do
think
this.
basically slightly unorganized.
Yeah,
Not
definitely.
an organized killer, but an unorganized killer. So that
Definitely
means he
very,
wouldn't have been
very
able to
disorganized.
hide the other ones. I think those are the ones.
Yeah, maybe.
He wouldn't have been able to, he wasn't organized enough.
Although, like I said,
So-
if he did feed him to the alligators, it's possible that they wouldn't have found it.
Chances are it's only like a couple more.
Yeah. Because, like I said, they did
Yeah.
find chunks of rotting meat around it, and they...
Yeah.
You know, they say it's like, oh, well, they didn't think they were human, but it's like, in 1938, 1937,
Hard to
could
know.
you really tell? I doubt it.
Well, it depends on whether or not it was skinned. You might see some stuff, and you might see something floating in the water. It looks like meat, you know what I mean? It's kind of rotten, and you look at the skin on it, and you go, that looks like chicken skin.
Yeah.
You know, shit, that kind of shit.
Yeah, I'm kind of...
You'd have
I
to be there at
kind
the
of have a
time.
feeling that it's just like, that looks like, but it's like not like they had DNA analysis or
no.
anything like that, you know?
No.
So it's like if you just saw a little chunk of meat, you wouldn't know what the fuck that was from, necessarily.
Especially if it was rotten.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. So it's like
funny that the
entirely
alligators
possible.
weren't eating it all, though.
Maybe it was too much.
He must have been feeding them pretty well.
It was too much for them. Well, yeah, apparently every weekend and maybe some other days he was like throwing all kind of like raccoons and kitties and stuff like that. And, like,
Yeah.
like an asshole. Yeah,
All right,
Precious said PTSD from World War One. That's what a lot of people said, that he wasn't the same when he came back from
Yeah.
the war. Which a lot of people weren't, I get it, but also a lot of people did not feed their girlfriends to alligators either. I
Yeah.
mean, he technically didn't do that either, but...
To be a serial killer, you're basically a serial rapist first. Then you just tend to kill the victims. That's what makes you a serial killer. And then they start adding other behaviors on top of that, like sexual sadism, and they start enjoying the killing more than the sexual assault, you know. So he doesn't really sound like. It doesn't sound like that's what's going on here. I think he's, like I said, an unorganized kind of like impulse killer. Somebody pisses him off. Something gets in his way. Like, she's pregnant, and I don't want.
And I got a younger girlfriend.
Yeah, and they got these other women. You know, she's gonna have to disappear. You know, why did she make me do this? It's that kind of. It's that kind of.
He gives me abusive boyfriend.
Yeah.
Vibes. It's like, well, look what you're making me do.
Yeah, why is she putting me in this position?
Right.
It's like, that's. What,
I don't have any other choice.
Yeah. That's what I think.
I have to shoot you.
That's not quite the same thing as a serial killer.
Not quite the same motivation. I mean, like I said, the result is kind of the same, but it's
Well, I differentiate. I don't give a fuck what the FBI says and all that. If you kill a bunch of people, and the motive wasn't sexual, you're a mass murderer. A serial killer is a rapist. He just kills the victim. That's what a serial killer. I don't really. This guy's getting women. He's not a rapist. I don't think he has to. He's just killing ones that become inconvenient.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of like a Black Widow, which is a woman that fucking kills the husband to get insurance money. So it's basically the same thing.
Yeah.
Which that seems to be something from the 1800s, early 1900s. They were doing that a lot.
But at least they were a lot sneakier about it.
Yeah.
You know? At least they just did like poison, so they had plausible deniability.
Yeah.
Kind of dumb to just like go in there with an axe or something, because that's a lot harder to cover up.
This guy's a man. He's going to take direct action. He's not going to worry about poison or anything. He's not going to watch it happen.
I'm worried about getting caught.
Pow. Right.
You know? It's called foresight.
He's in Texas. He's in Texas in a semi-rural area. Law enforcement is spotty if there's any. He's in an area where he could get away with it, or thinks he could get away with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although it's kind of funny that there were so many rumors going around about him feeding his waitresses to the alligators.
Yeah.
Like, even evidently for years before he got
Well,
caught.
he was feeding other shit to the alligators, so they just said, these girls fucking, where'd she go? She left. He goes, you fed that bitch to the alligator. And then it becomes a thing. Then it becomes a thing.
Yeah.
I don't think he did, though. Or mostly. I don't think he did.
I mean, he might have done a couple.
Because an alligator can't dispose of a body because of the bones.
That's true. They probably would find.
They'd find those bones at the bottom. He would know that they'd find all those bones at the bottom of the fucking alligator pit in the water where they're shitting. They'd be shitting that shit out. Crushed up bones.
Shitting the bones out.
Yeah,
but like I said, if they were crushed up, I don't think they would have had any way of determining if they were.
Yeah, the end of a femur bone and the end of little things. They could determine it.
Big? See, this is something I never thought I'd wonder about, but how big is an alligator's butthole?
Pretty big. I think it's probably a slit. It's probably about good. If you're on a good sized alligator, probably about.
Wait, he's a reptile. Is it still a cloaca?
No. I don't know what it is, but it could probably pass a bone. It probably.
Now I'm kind of wondering, because they eat some pretty big.
They
prey.
can swallow a. They can swallow.
They can eat a
child
zebra.
whole.
They can eat a zebra. I've seen one eat a zebra.
Yeah. They can swallow a child.
That's a crocodile,
whole.
but still. Yeah. So how big is their butthole?
Big enough to squish out a whole fucking child.
I
don't know what it looks like when it comes out. There's gonna be probably just a big old fucking, probably like bird shit with a bunch of bones in it.
I was like, don't make me Google that, but you know I'm going to.
Yeah. Okay.
You know I'm going to. As soon as the show's over, I'm gonna Google that. Because I can't help myself. I just can't.
Yeah.
It's like I don't want to see it, but I kind of do.
Yeah.
I kind of do, because now I'm kind of interested. All right, so... All right, we're going to wrap it up for the evening. Wrap that shit up, says Tom.
Yeah.
You need a shirt that says that.
Yeah, I'm going to wrap that shit up.
Wrap that shit up.
Yeah.
All right, hopefully you guys enjoyed this show this evening. This was kind of a fun one to do. It was kind of a fucked up topic. You guys know how much I love serial killer shows. All right, so thank you everybody for hanging out with us this evening. Thank you for your super chats. And we will see you guys again on Friday night for the Sidetrack show, which is always fun. We'll have some more drinks and talk about even more bullshit than we did on this show, because it's all sidetracks, so that should be fun. So again, have a good rest of your evening. Have a good day tomorrow, and we will see you guys again on Friday night. Good night.